out of Comiskey Park in 1933, but a year later, sluggers like the Royals.
Paul Hubble, the great National League southpaw, the Giants is in the box. Blue, Jerry, Clark, and Simmons. Now he has Joe Coleman. The pitch. Strike three, swinging. He struck him out. 5 strikeouts in a row for Lucky Hubble of the National League. How do you like this for a setting? 2 out. The tying run at third, the winning run at first, last half of the 9th inning, and the 400 hitter of today at the plate, Ted Williams. Paso pitches, Williams swings, there's a high drive, going deep, deep, it is a home run!
The first time the game was played in Anaheim, 16 future Hall of Famers participated in the longest All-Star game ever.
There's a long drive to left field off the bat of Perez. Back goes Yastrzemski looking up. Home run. National League leads 2-1 in the 15th.
Now, 22 years later to the day, the Stars return to the Big A, set to twinkle in the twilight. Major League home run leader Kevin Mitchell. His teammate Will Clark, the NL's top vote getter. The remarkable Bo Jackson. Another Bay Area bomber, Mark McGwire of the defending champion Oakland A's of the American League. The Wizard, Ozzie Smith. The irrepressible Kirby Puckett. And Tony Gwynn of the Padres and Wade Boggs of the Red Sox. 8 batting titles between them. NBC Sports welcomes you to the 60th Midsummer Classic. From Anaheim, it's the All-Star Game. The Big A in Anaheim, home of the surprising Angels, the midway point leaders in the American League West. And we welcome you to this season's All-Star Game. Hi, everybody. Bob Costas. Soon we'll be joined by Marv Albert. And then a bit later, Vin Scully, Tom Seaver, and for an inning, former President Ronald Reagan. In the early days of the All-Star Game, the American League of Ruth, Gehrig, Fox, DiMaggio, and Williams had the upper hand. But eventually the National League came back. And now the overall standings find the National League in front 37 victories to 21 with 1 tie. And since 1963, the NL has truly dominated, winning 22 and losing only 4. A ray of hope for the American League, though. The junior circuit has won 2 of the last 3. Hoping to continue that trend, manager Tony La Russa sends his own Dave Stewart of the Oakland A's to the mound tonight for the American League. He is his league's top winner with a record of 13-4. Tommy Lasorda, the National League skipper, counters with Big Daddy, the amazing Rick Rushell of the Western Division leading San Francisco Giants. He's won 12 while losing 3. Now, during All-Star Week, the name of Pete Rose can be pushed out of the headlines, perhaps, but not all the way off the sports pages. Pete was a 17-time All-Star, and he provided us with one of the longest-lasting All-Star images when he bowled Ray Fosse over in 1970. But what will the final image of Pete Rose be? Hall of Famer or baseball outcast? The man baseball hopes will be permitted to decide that is Commissioner Bart Giamatti. And when we come back, he talks with Marv Albert.
The 1989 All-Star Pregame is brought to you by America's Pork Producers, pork, the other white meat. And by Michelin. Michelin, because so much is riding on your tires.
To Anaheim Stadium on a breezy 76-degree Southern California. This 1989 baseball season has been dominated, in some respects overshadowed, by the ongoing developments in the Pete Rose gambling investigation. Baseball Commissioner Bart Giamatti has been in the middle of the storm since all broke loose some 5 months ago back in spring training. Now, Giamatti has not talked at great length about the Rose case, but he did agree to sit down with me yesterday to share some of his views. And I asked the commissioner what was his reaction when he was first informed that there was reason to believe that Rose was betting on baseball.
It was not something that one could take lightly, nor was it something that which one readily assented. I mean, one said, oh my God, and therefore let us do whatever has to be done in as professional and, as I say, impartial and fair a manner as humanly possible.
Was it a shock to you when it was first brought in?
Oh, sure. I mean, yeah, without, as I say, getting into what would edge into talking about the the investigation or the report, which I have never done and won't do, even with as distinguished an interlocutor as yourself, sir. Sure, of course. But one of the things that I'm always fascinated by when I read about the fact that I must be prejudiced or have made a judgment ahead of time is that I can't imagine what the motive would be. I've never read a plausible motive for why I would have wanted to create such a, as I say, complex and sad and wrenching a situation for that particular person, for Mr. Rose, for his team, for his family, for his city, for Major League Baseball, or for the people, the millions who love it. I mean, one doesn't go on out and create that kind of thing.
Back in spring training, you could have suspended Rose pending the result of baseball's investigation with the suspension based on Rose's questionable associations. Why did you not suspend Rose back in March?
Without, again, talking about things that you were skillfully leading me to the edge of. The central allegations, as I said, in this issue were very, very serious, very grave. They went to the core as allegations, and still do, to what baseball conceives of as its central issue, which is integrity around a specific set of allegations. I think it would have been massively and manifestly unfair to have done anything until one had a chance to examine and have a hearing on those central allegations.
So you don't relate it to the Denny McLain suspension?
I relate...
Or DeRocher by Happy Chandler?
It seems to me that I made a very, very clear and conscious decision that we were going to seek the truth wherever it may lie about those allegations, and that until that was resolved one way or the other, to have done anything else along the way would have been, in my opinion, wrong, unfair.
Bart, at any time, have you considered withdrawing from the investigation?
Me? Absolutely not. No. No.
At any time, was there a compromise solution offered to Pete Rose?
No. No.
Did your predecessor, Peter Ueberroth, attempt to come to a face-saving compromise?
I know that it has been so reported. He denies that. I believe him. I had absolutely no reason to think that's the case.
In light of what has occurred this year, do you ever ask yourself, what have I gotten myself into taking this job?
Yeah, I ask myself that in the sense that it has so many ways in which it is now reminiscent of a job I used to have in another place, that I sometimes wonder what has been gained in the swap. So it isn't a question I ask in the sense of, oh my goodness, what am I in? I have a very strong sense of what I'm in, and therefore perhaps I ask it.
Are you enjoying yourself?
Sure. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's a great game.
Baseball Commissioner Bart Giamatti, the one-time president of Yale University, living through this summer of discontent. When we come back, Bob with future Hall of Famer Mike Schmidt, who will be back in uniform for a final time.
And he takes a shot at it. Here it goes. It is out of here. Michael Jack Schmidt with number 501.
To Anaheim. There's a player over in the National League dugout who's in a unique position. All-Star and old-timer. The Phillies' Mike Schmidt was voted the National League's starting third baseman, despite the fact that, of course, he retired earlier this season. And in fact, during batting practice tonight, there were players from both squads scurrying around trying to get the future Hall of Famer's autograph. A few moments ago, I spoke with Mike Schmidt.
Mike, did you give any serious consideration to taking a turn at bat in this game as your last hurrah?
Not really, Bob. When I realized that I had a chance of being elected to the All-Star game, a lot of people asked me if I'd play if I won the voting. And I right from the outset said, no, I'm not going to play. I retired from the game. I have my reasons. There'd be nothing to gain by me playing in the game. Plus, I'd be taking the spot of a guy that really deserved to be there.
How do you think you'll feel watching one last All-Star game in uniform, but from the bench?
Well, I won't have the butterflies that I would normally have. I'll be sitting in here talking to the players, rooting them on. I know the National League takes this game very seriously, and I want to be helping them with my enthusiasm in the dugout. And I don't want to have to hit against Dave Stewart and Nolan Ryan.
Especially not in this twilight. So a last hurrah for Mike Schmidt, and the next step, he says, is broadcasting. a certain Hall of Famer in another sport, Bill Walsh of the 49ers, is headed for the broadcast booth, too.
Yes, Bob, the man who coached 3 Super Bowl championship teams during the course of the 80s will be joining Dick Enberg in the booth to comprise NBC's #1 NFL broadcast team. So the coach of the 80s in the NFL is joining NBC Sports, and we are delighted about it.
Look, Marv, face it, everybody wants to be a sportscaster, including former President Reagan. Here we see Ronald Reagan moments ago in the clubhouse trying to pick up some last-minute tidbits and anecdotes before working the first inning with Vin and Tom.
Mike Moore, Jeffrey Leonard, Gary Gaetti, Mark McGuire.
They're off. But unlike Bill Walsh, former President Reagan has not been signed to a long-term deal. Instead, we've inked him for only a single inning, and he will work the first. Now let's say hello to some of the people that President Reagan will be talking about, along with Vin Scully and Tom Seaver, as we go to Dennis Packer, the PA man, for the introduction of the National and American League squads.
Ladies and gentlemen, presenting the 1989 National League All-Star Team. The equipment manager, David Howells. The trainers from the San Diego Padres, Dick Dent. And from the Montreal Expos, Ron McLean. The coaches from the Los Angeles Dodgers, number 8, Joe Amalfitano. And number 18, Bill Russell. From the San Diego Padres, number 15, Jack McKeon. From Montreal, number 37, Buck Rogers. And in the bullpen from Los Angeles, number 58, Mark Cressy. And now from the Atlanta Braves, number 29, John Smoltz. From the Chicago Cubs, number 8, Andre Dawson. Number 28, Mitch Williams. And number 40, Rick Sutcliffe. From the Cincinnati Reds, number 31, John Franco. And number 11, Barry Larkin. From the Houston Astros, number 27, Glenn Davis. And number 33, Mike Scott. From the Los Angeles Dodgers, number 55, Orel Hershiser. Number 50, Jay Howell. Number 12, Willie Randolph. And number 14, Mike Scioscia. From the Montreal Expos, number 44, Tim Burke. And number 29, Tim Wallach. From the Philadelphia Phillies, number 9, Vaughn Hayes. From the Pittsburgh Pirates, number 25, Bobby Bonilla. From the St. Louis Cardinals, number 29, Vince Coleman. And number 26, Tony Pena. And from the San Diego Padres, number 48, Mark Davis. And now managing his 4th All-Star game from the defending world champion Los Angeles Dodgers, number 2, Tommy Lasorda. Now let's meet the National League starting lineup. Leading off and making his 6th straight appearance as the National League starting shortstop, from the St. Louis Cardinals, number 1, Ozzie Smith. Batting second, leading the National League in batting with a .353 average. From the San Diego Padres, number 19, right fielder Tony Gwynn. Batting third, this year's top vote getter in the All-Star balloting. From the San Francisco Giants, number 22, first baseman Will Clark. Batting fourth, leading the major leagues with 31 home runs and 81 RBIs. From the San Francisco Giants, number 7, left fielder Kelly Mitchell. Batting fifth, he has 16 home runs and 52 RBIs this season. From the Cincinnati Reds, number 44, center fielder Eric Davis. Batting sixth, second in the league with 22 home runs. From the New York Mets, number 20, third baseman Howard Johnson. Batting seventh, he ranks third among active National Leaguers with a .307 average. From the St. Louis Cardinals, number 28, the designated hitter Pedro Guerrero. Batting eighth, the Major League's all-time leader in fielding percentage at second base. From the Chicago Cubs, number 23, Ryan Sandberg. Batting ninth, known for his rocket arm and throwing from the crouch position. From the San Diego Padres, number 9, Benito Santiago. Warming up in the bullpen, National League Pitcher of the month of May. From the San Francisco Giants, number 48, Rick Russell. Although he retired on May 29th, he was elected by the fans to the National League third base position in recognition of his contributions to the game. From the Philadelphia Phillies, number 20, Mike Schmidt. Now let's greet the 1989 American League All-Star Squad. First, the equipment manager, Leonard Garcia. And now the trainers. From your California Angels, Rick Smith. And from the Cleveland Indians, Jim Warfield. The coaches from the Oakland Athletics, number 5, Art Kushner. From the California Angels, number 53, Marcel Latchman. From the Boston Red Sox, number 35, Joe Morgan. From the California Angels, number 12, Doug Rader. And in the bullpen from Oakland, number 18, Dave Duncan. Now the American League non-starters. From the Baltimore Orioles, number 14, Mickey Tettleton. From the Boston Red Sox, number 39, Mike Greenwell. From the California Angels, number 30, Devon White. And number 31, Chuck Finley. From the Cleveland Indians, number 11, Doug Jones. And number 21, Greg Swindell. From the Detroit Tigers, number 39, Mike Henneman. From the Kansas City Royals, number 23, Mark Gubicza. From the Milwaukee Brewers, number 37, Dan Plesac. From the Minnesota Twins, number 8, Gary Gaetti. From the New York Yankees, number 6, Steve Sax. And number 23, Don Mattingly. From the Oakland Athletics, number 21, Mike Moore. From the Seattle Mariners, number 00, Jeffrey Leonard. From the Texas Rangers, number 34, Nolan Ryan. And number 40, Jeff Russell. And from the Toronto Blue Jays, number 1, Tony Fernandez. And number 17, Kelly Gruber. Ladies and gentlemen, managing his first All-Star game from the 1988 American League champion Oakland Athletics, number 10, Tony La Russa. Leading off, the American League's top vote getter of 1989 from the Kansas City Royals, the left fielder, number 16, Bo Jackson. Batting second and playing third base, the 5-time American League batting champion from the Boston Red Sox, number 26, Wade Boggs. Currently leading the American League with a .336 average and hitting third this evening. From the Minnesota Twins, the center fielder, number 34, Kirby Puckett. From the Chicago White Sox, batting in the cleanup spot, 2-time outstanding designated hitter of the year, number 3, Harold Baines. Playing second base and batting fifth, he ranks among the league's leaders in 6 categories. From the Texas Rangers, number 14, Julio Franco. Hitting 6th and appearing in his 7th straight All-Star game, the American League's fielding leader among shortstops. From the Baltimore Orioles, number 8, Cal Ripken. Hitting 7th with a .330 average going into this evening's game, the right fielder from the Texas Rangers, number 21, Ruben Sierra. Among the league leaders in home runs and RBIs in 1989, playing first base and batting 8th from the Oakland Athletics, number 25, Mark McGwire. Batting 9th and catching, the most valuable player of the 1988 All-Star Game. From the Oakland Athletics, number 36, Terry Steinbach. And in the bullpen, the American League starting pitcher for the 60th All-Star Game. He leads the league with 13 wins in 1989 from the Oakland Athletics, number 34, Dave Stewart. At this time, let's meet our honorary captains. First for the National League, he won 209 games and recorded almost 2,500 strikeouts in 14 seasons with the Brooklyn and Los Angeles Dodgers. This 1968 Cy Young winner may best be remembered for an amazing string of 58 2/3 consecutive scoreless innings in 1968, which stood as a major league record until it was broken last year. Introducing the National League honorary captain, Don Drysdale. And for the American League, in his 23 seasons with the Boston Red Sox, he played in more games than any other player in American League history. The only American leaguer to collect 3,000 hits and hit 400 home runs. He is a three-time batting champion and baseball's last Triple Crown winner. Introducing the American League honorary captain, a 1989 Hall of Fame inductee, Carl Yastrzemski. To honor the two great nations in which Major League Baseball is played, will you please rise and join tonight's show musical director, Doc Severinsen, and the Canadian brass who will present the national anthems of Canada and the United States. Immediately following the anthems, you'll be viewing a flyover by F-4 fighter jets from the Air National Guard at March Air Force Base. The F-4s will be approaching the stadium from left center field toward home plate. And now to honor America, the Star-Spangled Banner.
The scheduled first pitch is only about 5 minutes away, and we'll return to Anaheim in just a moment. But first, we go to New York for this NBC News Digest, and here's Tom Brokaw.
Who is slow in getting up.
Southern California as we await the start of the 60th All-Star Game in Anaheim. Hi, everybody. I'm Vin Scully, along with Tom Seaver. The All-Star Game in Anaheim. That has to bring back a rush of memories for you.
Vinny, one of my favorite memories. I pitched the last inning of that game, the 15th inning for the National League All-Star team. I was just a year and a half out of USC and came in and saved the ball game for Don Drysdale, and we beat the American League 2-1.
And tonight, we'll be seeing two starting pitchers who have done a remarkable about-face. Both of them, Dave Stewart let go by the Phillies, and Rick Russell apparently finished as far as the Yankees were concerned.
A couple of different styles of these two pitchers. Stewart, a power pitcher and a good forkball. Russell, a lot of sinkers and sliders. The thing about it is that whether they're veterans or rookies on these ball clubs, the All-Star Game is something very special. It's their night, the show of shows. It makes no difference. Once that bell rings and the game starts, these guys play very hard and they play hard to win.
And it will be an extra special attraction should Nolan Ryan walk in from the bullpen here in Anaheim.
Well, he's had so many great numbers that he put on the board in this ballpark, in this league, and it's a phenomenal the way he has been able to have his career just continue on at such great success, and I hope we get to see him.
And we hope to see Don Mattingly, Wade Boggs, Kevin Mitchell, Will Clark, and coming up, we'll visit with former President of the United States, Ronald Reagan.
The 1989 All-Star Game is brought to you by Buick and your Buick dealer. The Great American Road belongs to Buick. By Stroh's, fire brewed, family brewed for more than 200 years. And by America's pork producers, Pork, the other white meat.
The poet wrote that each man's reach should exceed his grasp. In America, one dares to dream, to chase that dream from Iowa and catch it and ride it to the halls of the White House. This is a night for dreaming and for the fulfillment of those dreams. And that field of dreams is not necessarily just between the foul lines. Ladies and gentlemen, former President Ronald Reagan, and how good it is to have you here in the ballpark. You know, traditionally, historically, presidents throw out the first ball, so since you are a former sports announcer and back in your own bailiwick, I think you should throw out the first adjective.
Well, I don't know whether I could get how I feel into one word, but as close as I could come would just be to say wonderful. You know, it's a great honor for me after broadcasting several years in Iowa and now finally make it to the big time of a top network sports broadcasting job. And it's reassuring that after only 6 months away from a job that I had, I've been out of work for 6 months, and maybe there's a future here.
Well, you know, I might split the first infinitive, but I was worrying, as were the nation, when we read about your horse bucking and rearing and throwing you off, and we thought you might have more than fractured syntax.
Well, I want to tell you, I am several shades of color underneath my clothes here, most of them being black and blue.
Well,
and I'm glad that you said that I didn't fall off the horse, as some people said. No, I didn't. I was bucked off, and I think I'm very fortunate that I didn't have a lot of things broken.
Well, we're delighted to have you and honored to have you with us tonight. And we're all going to get a little bit younger, like kids at Christmas morning. Let's open up the gifts and take a look down on the field as we start this 60th All-Star Game here in Anaheim. We were talking before about how baseball makes you feel young.
Yes.
And when you come down here, I guess all of a sudden you've got to figure a few years have fallen off.
Well, yes. Particularly when our host here tonight is Gene Autry, and he's 81. And then Jimmy Reese down there, who threw out the first pitch, is 83. And somehow I feel kind of like a kid.
Well, great. There is Gene Autry, the host and owner of the California Angels. So we'll pull up a chair now and see what takes place. Ozzie Smith will start it off against Dave Stewart, fouled away. And, sir, as you look down from where we are, you can see the problem immediately for the hitters facing someone who throws as hard as Dave Stewart. Those shadows and the patchwork of lights. Foul back, 0-2.
Somebody has a souvenir.
Yeah, there'll be plenty of them tonight before we're through. You wore a Cardinal uniform as we look at Ozzie.
Yeah, but not not here in the stadium. I wore a Cardinal uniform when I was playing Grover Cleveland Alexander in the picture of the winning team.
1-2 the count to Ozzie Smith, the acrobat at shortstop for the National League. 2 balls and 2 strikes the count. Ozzie will be followed by Tony Gwynn. And then Will Clark and Kevin Mitchell. And a base hit, bang to center field for Ozzie Smith. So the National League opens up with a single, and that will bring up Tony Gwynn. Tony Gwynn is a remarkable hitter. He has led the league in hitting 3 times. In fact, should he lead the league in hitting this year, he would be the first player since Stan Musial to lead it 3 consecutive years. Ozzie Smith at first, nobody out in the first inning. We're just starting. And there goes Ozzie. Breaking ball high, throw, got him.
And he's out.
A perfect throw by Terry Steinbach on a pitch up, so he was halfway out of the crouch anyway. And right on the money at the bag. And Julio Franco.
I thought it was Tony Gwynn.
At the plate right now.
Yeah. He played basketball in college, and then he was offered, or he was drafted by both the Los Angeles Clippers and the San Diego Padres.
He's a remarkable athlete as he draws ball 4. Brings up a point. His wife used a lot of videotapes so that he could study them. Did you use videotapes at all in your career?
No, I'm afraid I was a little before that. I know she edits them to improve his performance. Of course, in the picture business, we have a thing, something like that, and that is they all through a picture you're making every day. You go into this projection room and see what you did the day before.
Here's Will Clark. It takes a strike, 0-1. Clark from Mississippi State. They call him the Thrill, and on his answering machine, if you call him and he's on the road, a voice says the thrill is gone. Strike. 1 away here in the first inning. We're just starting up for Dave Stewart. A little bit of a rocky beginning. A base hit, then a walk. He has 1 away. Working on Clark, followed by Mitchell.
He was the only National League player to play in every game last year. And he was a member of a 1984 Olympic team.
Very close as they're keeping an eye on Tony Gwynn.
Batting average of .332. That's pretty good for a young man.
Another remarkable hitter. We'll see plenty of them before the night is over. No score with 1 out in the first inning. Tony Gwynn at first, Will Clark the batter in the 60th All-Star game that has seen the National League win 37, the American League 21, and there's been 1 tie. Foul ball off to the left and out of play. Over 64,000 here, and alive and vibrant and very much, I think, partisan for the American League, understandably so.
Yes, they're in their home field, which incidentally is the greatest baseball stadium in America.
Clark with a very good eye at the plate. He is one of those fellows who just has such great discipline that he refuses to chase a bad ball very often at all. Two and 2 to Will.
never missed a game last year.
Another iron horse. You have a chance to watch any baseball with all the worldly pressures on your shoulders?
Well, not as much as I might have liked. Now, here and there, but you couldn't quite keep up with what all was going on in the season.
I can understand why. There goes the runner, a big chopper speared by McGuire. He'll take it to the bag, and down to second goes Tony Gwynn. One reason why it's nice to have a very big first baseman, be able to handle that chopper. So 2 down. Now comes a fella who has captured the imagination of the country from the San Francisco Giants, Kevin Mitchell, who has hit 31 home runs already to lead the major leagues. He's a remarkable kid and quite a story.
Yes, there is quite a story to him. He was tied up with the gangs when he was young and in school, and his brother was killed in a gang fight, and he started out for vengeance, but a remarkable person in his family, his grandmother, took charge, and as I understand it, she saw that he got a good education, and now here he is away from the gangs and in baseball, and as you say,
base hit to center
there
for
it
him.
is.
He's going to get the first RBI.
And a run batted in.
You were talking about his grandmother. The other night, he took his grandmother to nearby Disneyland. That was his way of celebrating the selection of the All-Star team.
27 years old.
Just starting.
He leads all the major leaguers in home runs and runs batted in.
So Kevin Mitchell gets the National League on the scoreboard, and now the batter is Eric Davis. Eric the Red. Fork ball that Dave Stewart throws had really helped him, but Davis would not chase that one. The forker was down and away. 1 ball and no strikes. For Dave Stewart, a man who is just a very ordinary pitcher and suddenly has turned it completely around, and he has won 20 games in each of the last 2 years, and here he is starting in an All-Star game. Remarkable stories here tonight. Of course, I would think the country can use some heroes always.
Yes, yes, and this is a pretty good place for it. Baseball.
So Davis holding off as the National League scores here in the first inning to lead the American League 1-0. That number that Eric Davis wears, number 44, that has certainly been to the dance before. Worn with a great deal of distinction and pride by the great Henry Aaron and the equally great Willie McCovey. You can't look at 44 without thinking of them. There goes Kevin Mitchell, and the pitch is ball forward. Yep. So walk Eric Davis. So the battle continues here in the first inning. And Howard Johnson coming up. Howard Johnson's a fella, in a sense, who got a second chance. He was a backup infielder, and now suddenly has just signed a $6 million contract for the next 3 years.
Well, 36 home runs.
And he promptly bangs it to center for a base hit. Here comes Mitchell. Here comes a throw to the plate by Puckett. Not in time. And the National League is leading 2-0. We'll take another look, because out there in center field, Kirby Puckett, who has 3 Gold Gloves and has 5 assists this year, gets off a dandy of a throw, but it's not nearly in time as Mitchell brings in the run. So the National League leads 2-0 as Kirby just came up short. And now, for the first time, using the designated hitter in the All-Star game, and the honor belongs to Pedro Guerrero. Oh, 0-1 to count to Pete. Interesting how baseball has spread around. For instance, of the 56 All-Stars we have in this game today, 6 are from Latin countries. Pedro Guerrero from the Dominican Republic.
And they've got quite a baseball training ground down there for our major leagues.
They do indeed. And particularly, and for some reason, there's one small area, San Pedro de Macorís, and there are several players who come from that town in the Dominican, and he's one of them. These two fellows know each other very well, Dave Stewart, Pete Guerrero. And the runners go, the pitch down and away, and it's a double steal. Eric Davis got a huge jump. There was no way Terry Steinbach was going to be able to get him on that jump. The trailer man, Howard Johnson, steals easily. So here is Guerrero with first base open and the National League leading 2-0. So a rocky start for Dave Stewart. And a drive into left center field, coming in a hurry to pick it off. A fine catch by Bo Jackson. And that saves the American League from further damage. A couple of runs on 2 hits. And at the end of half an inning, 2-0 National. Bo Jackson making the catch on the ball hit by Guerrero to prevent further damage. And now the American League will be coming up, leading with the National League leading 2-0. And as Bo Jackson comes up, we talked about Ozzie Smith and you wearing a Cardinal uniform. And Jackson wears baseball and football, and you did football.
Yes, I played the Gipper, but I also played for real in a much earlier time. But that Bo down there, that's a pretty interesting hobby he has for his vacation. When baseball ends, he winds up playing football. I don't know if there's ever been anyone doing it. Hey.
He's remarkable, and look at that one. Bo Jackson says hello. Russell is greeted on the first pitch to Bo Jackson. He almost hit it out of state.
You know, that's going to set it up pretty interesting for him to the end of this season when he goes back to the Los Angeles Raiders.
Watch this again, sir. You could have taken a trip to Washington, I think. High fives in the dugout. It is 2-1 National League. Interestingly enough, on the home run, the last 4 home runs in All-Star games have all been hit by the American League. And boy, that thing was really crushed. You were talking earlier about how baseball makes you feel young. Rick Russell, a pitcher, is 40 years old. He is almost the oldest pitcher to ever start in a National League game with the American League. Warren Spahn was about a month older. So he's a remarkable story.
Yeah, he's 6'3" and he weighs, what is it, 240 pounds. And he's got 12 wins and
a former Cub.
A former Cub. Yes.
Does it feel a great deal different sitting here doing a television game as opposed to the days of recreating?
It is different. I can't get quite used to this. Hey, that looks like it's going there too.
Eric Davis to the track.
There it is.
Gone. Electrifying moment here in Anaheim with the National League leading 2-0. Consecutive home runs by Bo Jackson and Wade Boggs. And the last time we had consecutive home runs in an All-Star game was 1975. Hit to Sandberg and they get Kirby Puckett. 1 down.
But you know, both of those home runs, you didn't have to wait for them. Even the outfielders knew they were going out of the park.
They sure did. One thing, too, sir, this time of day when it's very hot, the ball really carries anyway. Not that either of those needed any breaks. They will both get out of sight.
Must make Big Daddy, as the fellows call him out there on the mound, be a little upset.
And a comebacker. He's an excellent fielder. And Russell takes care of Harold Baines. So we have 2 down in the first inning of a 2-2 tie. And Julio Franco will be coming up.
I'm glad you said that first. I didn't know whether he was going to call it Julio or Julio.
Julio Franco from the Texas Rangers.
He's had 10 home runs this season. And he's won from that place in the Dominican Republic.
You remember the first game you ever did recreate? Was it a Cub game or a White Sox game?
It was a Cub game.
Cub game?
Yeah.
And that's a base hit into left field. So with all the pre-game talk about the shadows and the sunshine and the inability of the hitters to see, we've had 4 runs in the game. We've had 2 home runs, and we're only in the first inning. And Cal Ripken is coming up. Ripken, another of the many remarkable stories in the All-Star game.
He's played in 1,173 consecutive games, and he's the first American League shortstop to start 6 straight games.
I would think 1173. He started his great streak as you were settling in your first administration. It was, I think, May the 30th, 1982. That's right. So Julio Franco at first, 2 down in the first inning, a 2-2 tie, and Cal Ripken at the plate.
You know, this is kind of interesting. The National League has consistently been the winner in these All-Star games, except that for the last 2 out of 3, the American League has won.
I guess they work in cycles somewhat. Ground ball to shortstop. Ozzie feeding Sandberg, and it's in the books. So Bo Jackson and Wade Boggs balance the budget in the first inning in a blink of an eye, and at the end of 1 inning, a 2-2 tie. Well, sir, all of us are indeed proud and grateful and delighted that you took time out to spend an inning, and in the minutes of the meeting, it should be duly noted that we had the most runs in the first inning of an All-Star game in 10 years, so you brought a little excitement to the night.
Well, I'd like to think that. I'm so sorry that it's all over for me now, and I have to confess I was a little uptight because, as I say, when I was sitting up in a place like this, I had to tell the people what was happening because they couldn't see it. But now I get a little self-conscious when I know that people can see what's going on.
We were so thrilled just to have you with us, sir. Thank you very much.
Well, I want to thank you for the opportunity and for letting me be up here for a little while. It's taken me down a very nostalgic lane.
Well, we were delighted to make the trip with you. Thank you again, sir, very much. God bless.
Thank you.
Nolan Ryan pitching now for the American League in a 2-2 tie here in the first inning. And it'll be Ryne Sandberg, then Benito Santiago, and Ozzie Smith. If you joined us a little late, they came out of the chute breathing fire. Ozzie Smith singled and Tony Gwynn walked. Kevin Mitchell singled in a run. After Eric Davis walked, Howard Johnson singled in a run. And the American League came right back on tremendous home run by Bo Jackson and by Wade Boggs. So we're all even, and we're really just starting up. Sandberg, Santiago, and Smith. That's in there. Ryne Sandberg, the brilliant second baseman of the Chicago Cubs. And certainly his hallmarks, durability and consistently. Interesting, he's only been on the disabled list for 1 month in his 8-year career. Popped it up. Lost in the sun by Steinbach, but McGuire has the play. Terry was looking back desperately as if to say, where's the ball? And McGuire had it all the way. Tough time of day. 1 down. Well, Tom Seaver has started a lot of great games, relieved in the All-Star game. But now you are following a former president of the United States.
This might be the most difficult and the largest seat to fill after somebody's. I'm sorry I was late again, but I was up having my picture taken, if you will.
I understand.
And again, I was third in line. I wasn't first, and we have a full booth here tonight.
Tom, welcome.
Thank you, Vinny.
Okay, well,
these are very special, these All-Star games, and it's great to be here. What a start, huh?
It was special to have the former president here. And he was being very honest when he said he was uptight. He was. I kept looking and thinking, he really is. He was nervous.
Well, I told you. You know, we talked about it before. Regardless of whether you're a rookie or an old pro, it doesn't make any difference. These are such special games and such special times that it is a nerve-wracking period of time, especially before you go on the field. And you could see that he was like that before he came in and sat down at the booth.
What about that Concorde flight that Bo Jackson hit? As a pitcher, you must have really appreciated that.
I know those. The legend continues to grow, doesn't it?
Oh. Benito Santiago, the catcher from San Diego, up there at the plate. A 2-2 tie in the second inning. A rather explosive first inning. But boy, you talk about popping open a bottle of champagne. For Bo Jackson to walk up and do what the entire nation was wondering if he could do, that was fantastic. Santiago fouls it away off to the right, out of play.
And the first inning seemed to go exactly the way the script would be written. The National League running plays, 3 running plays that they had in the first inning, stolen bases and hit and run, all that. And here comes the American League, 2 home runs. Dave Stewart, 1 inning of work.
Interesting, though, as Santiago strikes out, and you pitched here in an early game, everyone thought going in there won't be any runs. It'll be very difficult to hit through 6:30, 7 o'clock. Now Nolan Ryan comes in, and already the shadows have disappeared, and he just works and picks up his first K.
Well, what a lot of people have forgotten about that 1967 game, in which there were 30 strikeouts. The amazing number is that there were 11 of the 30 were called third strikeouts. And it's a matter of Ed Runge, who was the umpire behind the plate that game, had the reputation of having a huge strike zone. And he did. When you look at 30 strikeouts, over a third of them called third strikes. And that's why one of the main reasons why you had so many strikeouts that game.
If you're wondering about Nolan Ryan, he went 9 innings on Thursday. So he is well rested as he comes roaring in. And that was a dramatic stroll for him, coming out of the American League bullpen here in Anaheim, where he pitched so many times, and recently returning to shut out his old club, the California Angels. And as Nolan said, outside of his 5 no-hitters, the shutout against the Angels the other night was his biggest thrill. I'm sure, knowing Nolan, another big thrill for him was to see his dear friend Jimmy Reese throw out the first ball. That's popped up around the plate. Steinbach looking for help, and here it comes. And Wade Boggs puts it away. So the National League out in order, 1-2-3 at the end of an inning and a half, a 2-2 tie.
The All-Stars are on NBC with waves of action.
You already get the feeling this early in the All-Star, the first Star game featuring the designated hitter, that the managers will take advantage of it. In other words, David Stewart pitched 2 innings, and Nolan Ryan came right in, and Rick Russell went his inning, and now John Smoltz comes in. Russell went an inning and gave up 2 runs, 3 hits. Stewart went an inning, gave up 2 runs, 3 hits, and now they give way.
From the Texas Rangers, number 21.
Ruben Sierra, followed by Mark McGuire and Terry Steinbach. Interesting, too, with John Smoltz following Rick Russell. Line drive, base hit to right field for Ruben Sierra. John Smoltz, the youngest National League player, is replacing the oldest National League player, Russell. As Mark McGwire comes up, who will ever forget Game 3 of the 1988 World Series, and Mark McGwire checking in against the Dodgers' Jay Howell in Oakland's Coliseum. And did he ever rip it into the bleachers? And the bash was born. 0-1. McGwire had a good idea about batting 8th in the lineup. That's another way to look at it. He's batting 2nd cleanup. And I'm sure he was 5 the last time he would hit 8. 17 home runs during the year. For Smoltz, the youngest, and you can certainly relate to that, walking in from the bullpen to pitch in an all-star game, cinch he's fighting butterflies.
Oh, you can bet that his stomach is going round and round. He is having a terrific year. 11-6 and an earned run average just over 2. Many people consider him the best young pitcher in the game today. Good 90-mile-an-hour plus fastball. Very aggressive. And has developed a lot of confidence in his curveball.
You know, the Tigers knew they were trading a top prospect when they sent him to Atlanta for Doyle Alexander, but they got what they wanted. Remember in '87, Alexander went 9-0 the rest of the year, led the Tigers to the American League East title. McGwire with Steinbach to follow. Sierra at first. We're in the bottom of the 2nd inning. A 2-2 tie. And that's hit in the air to right field up in that bright sun. Tony Gwynn, who had his glove stolen yesterday, the glove he was going to use in the game, using another one. He's got a couple of gold gloves anyway, and he's breaking in a new one today.
Looks like it's brand new, too. Boy, those players hate to lose their gamers.
Yeah,
they become very special.
He left it in the dugout yesterday to go out and take batting practice on. When he came back, adios glove.
Shame on him.
Here is Terry Steinbach, the only player in history to hit a home run in his first at-bat in the major leagues and hit a home run in his first all-star at-bat. Came back from a serious beating, and you can see he wears that protective covering to cover the left side of his face. 0-1.
There you see our speed gun that we have here at Anaheim Stadium today, 74 miles per hour. That would be the off-speed straight changeup from young John Smoltz.
Steinbach in '87 platooned with Mickey Tettleton, and now drives one into right center for a base hit. Big hop. Eric Davis stays with it, and around to third goes Ruben Sierra. That thing almost kangarooed over Eric Davis' head. So first and third, 1 out, and here comes Bo. If you wondered as I did, what is his name besides Big Bad Bo? It is, for the record, Vincent Edward Jackson.
Talking to Gene Mauch about hitting Bo first. Of course, Mauch, who managed here for many years for the Angels. And Mauch said, gee, I did exactly the same thing in 1965. Hit Willie Mays first in the lineup. He hit the second ball out of the ballpark. Bo did the same thing.
1 ball, no, on the corner. 0-1. That's Jim Evans behind the plate. Do you remember the last 3-run home run hit in an all-star game?
You're going to tell me I gave it up? I knew it was
you know, that's right. The last 3-run home run, you were on the mound and Carl Yastrzemski took you downtown. But because you're so great, I can bring it up.
I just had a feeling that was a loaded question.
1-1 to Bo. Ooh, good fastball.
Jackson struck out 146 times last year. He got 96 Ks already, and that's right where he's susceptible. You don't want to let him extend those big arms. Against Ruschel, he just simply went down, extended the arms, and got the pitch low in the strike zone.
Breaking ball grounded to short. Ozzie Smith to Sandberg. Back to first. No contest. Bo is there. The run is in. And the American League leads 3-2.
The National League may be the team that is known for their speed, but Jackson is the one on the American League squad that gives them the idea of a ball club that can really run. He can run as well as anybody on the field out there today.
He was fooled on the pitch, but with his speed he winds up picking up an RBI. And here's Wade Boggs, who takes a strike. 0-1. American League 3, National League 2, bottom of the second inning. Boggs with 3 home runs so far this year. Hit one out over the left center field wall. Of course, he's pumped up. He just recently signed a new contract for 3 years for over $7 million.
A good left field hitter, Wade Boggs. He's played Pepper with the Green Monster in Boston, and Davis is playing him straight away. Usually they will defense him more to left field, try and give him no big holes in the infield.
There goes Bo, and Santiago throws it into center field, and Jackson is on his way to third. Stolen base, error 2. Benito Santiago, who the last count I had threw out 8 runners while on his knees, did not even get it in the neighborhood, and Jackson just kept on going.
Santiago's been throwing out about 46% of the runners that are attempting to steal against him, and he just simply gets his elbow down and underneath that ball.
In there for a strike.
The book on Boggs is great inside out hitter, meaning he will take the ball to left center field, trying to pitch him hard stuff in off of the plate.
He tried to take it that way. Ozzie Smith gone out and will make the play. However, the American League, a run, 2 hits. There was an error. It's 3-2 thanks to Bo, and we'll be back after these messages from your local station.
America, today's Chevrolet, the official choice of Major League Baseball. And by The Abyss, a new movie from the writer and director of Terminator and Aliens.
Anaheim Stadium, the home of the California Angels, and from our blimp looking down at the controls of Columbia, Captain Joel Chamberlain from Norwood, Massachusetts. And by the way, this is the 26th year a Goodyear blimp has carried a TV camera for the All-Star game. Nolan Ryan will be working to Tony Gwynn, Will Clark, and then Kevin Mitchell. Gwynn drew a walk and scored a run in the first inning. 2 balls and no strikes the count. In watching the American League have back-to-back home runs by Jackson and Boggs, and the fact the National League has been silenced on the long ball for a while, the last home run hit by a National League player, Dale Murphy, hit it, and you have to go back to 1984. 3-0. In for a strike, 3-1. And hit down the left field line, foul, and out of play. We were talking a moment ago about Nolan Ryan. And when you realize how phenomenal he is, at 42, he is still a power pitcher. And we're talking about Roger Clemens and Dwight Gooden as fellows with sore arms and throwing more breaking balls, etc. And he is phenomenal.
Continues to throw the fastball very effectively. He has added a changeup, which has made a longevity more effective.
Chopper over the mound, off his glove, deflected to Julio Franco, and the throw not in time. So just off the glove of Nolan Ryan, and Julio Franco unable to short hop and get him. And Tony Gwynn gets a leg single.
Nolan is a guy that used to go out there and he would tell some hitters what was coming. I mean, he threw that hard for a long period of time in the middle of his career that he could just tell people what in the world was coming. They couldn't do anything with it. That ball just off his glove, and his teammate with the Texas Rangers not enough to get Tony Gwynn, who runs very well.
Now you have Will Clark, who grounded to first in the first inning against Ryan. On the corner for a strike, 0-1. Clark was talking about when he was in college and played at Mississippi State, and how he played against Bo Jackson at Auburn baseball. And there was a throw into the runner, and Jackson was the runner, and Clark said, Jackson hit me and I wound up in the dugout. I have never had my bell rung like that, and I don't play football.
I saw Jackson in the Kansas City clubhouse. He was getting some treatment on a leg, and he's the biggest, most compact, thickest baseball player I've ever seen.
Down at his feet, and Clark pulls him out of the way and takes a header. Nice save by Terry Steinbach to keep the tying run at first base.
Very good competition here between Nolan Ryan, Clark, and Clark. Clark likes to dive into the ball, has a big long swing. Look on him, you would think with his long swing that you'd be able to throw the fastball by Clark. But once he gets the bat to the strike zone, he's extremely quick. He starts a little bit early. We've talked about him before, and he reminds you so much of Stan Musial, not how he sets up, but what happens with the bat once he starts it and gets it to the hitting zone.
Talking about Stan Musial, that's the quote. Will Clark reminds me so much of myself I can hardly believe it. Well, Stosh, here he is.
When goes.
He stole 27 during the regular season, so he's an excellent base runner and base stealer. That means the National League had the double steal in the first inning, and they've already stolen 3 bases now in 2 innings plus.
The National League will use their running game. They have the kind of home run power supposedly that the American League has. And Tony Gwynn, for a big man, can run extremely well. 27 out of 37 during the regular season so far.
So the tying run at second base, nobody out in the third inning. Will Clark trying to pick him up, and then Mitchell and Davis to follow. So Clark comes up empty, and down he goes, 1 away. Kevin Mitchell coming up, and if you go back to the files about the best of the best, it might be a little surprising. It's not going to be a home run. It's in St. Louis. Ozzie Smith hits a fly ball down the left field line, and watch this. He barehands it in foul territory. Now we'll see him with the bat. Mitchell singled to drive in a run in the first inning. And Ryan off the rubber. He wants Terry Steinbach to go over the signs again.
That catch, you see that catch time and time again, you still don't believe it. Can't make that play.
Three to 2 in favor of the American League. 0-1 to count to Kevin Mitchell. Mitchell has exploded when you look at his 31 home runs. 22 of them have come in very short spurts, just totaling 26 games. The point being that when he gets hot, he's explosive. 6 in 6 games, 7 in 6 games, 4 in 3 games. We'll check Nolan Ryan's speed if he decides to come in, especially with a fastball. Oh, and 1. 87, and it seemed to sink as it got up there, so there was a lot more than just speed on that pitch.
That's an 87 mile an hour changeup. 87 mile an hour changeup. It's just amazing. Smoltz threw his fastball. and that was 89 miles an hour.
See now what he does. 0-2 to Mitchell. One away in the third inning. The American League leading 3-2. Breaking ball, and he just backed away and it missed. I think Noli thought he might have had it.
One of the great things about Nolan Ryan has been his knee buckling curveball. And that is exactly what happens. It will just absolutely duck you. You can't see the rotation. It may be he does not see Nolan Ryan for a year. Could be the light here at this time of day in Anaheim. The ball just at the top of the strike zone or above the top of the strike zone, and Jim Evans called it a ball.
Breaking ball missed. How good were the 1986 New York Mets? Look at it this way. Kevin Mitchell and Howard Johnson, who are two starters on this year's National League All-Star team, were backup players to Ray Knight in 1986. A shot just foul down the line. Jerry Crawford of the National League right there to call it. We have a group of veteran umpires, and they're stars in their own right, and they should be saluted. Jerry Crawford, 12 years. Terry Cooney of the American League at second, 14 years. Bob Engel of the National League, 23 years of service. Jim Evans of the American League, 17 years. John Hirschbeck on the left field line, 5.5 years. And Jerry Davis of the National League on the right field line, 5 years.
Nolan was trying not to give Mitchell a fastball to hit. This is a changeup on the inside part of the plate. Mitchell's right hand comes over the top and just hooks it right at the very end. You can see Jerry Crawford enjoying every moment of it. You're exactly right, and these umpires love it. They love doing postseason work, and the All-Star game for them as well. It is just as big a thrill as the players.
He gave that kind of a Baryshnikov call, didn't he?
Certainly did. Probably practiced it last night.
Left foot on the chalk. So Mitchell is still there, 2-2. Fisted foul off to the right.
There you get to see how he did not get to that fastball. He pulled the pitch before, which was the off-speed pitch, and here's the scouting report on Mitchell. The thing is, if you throw him hard stuff in, you got to get it in off the plate. A lot like Bo Jackson. Very big, very muscular. What you don't want to do is let him extend the arms. Well, you take power away from the big, strong home run hitters is get the ball inside toward the hands and make them try to hit the ball and not have their arms extended. Make them break their, break their elbow joint slightly. Take some of the power away.
2-2 to Kevin Mitchell. With Tony Gwynn at second base, one out in the third, and the American League shading the National 3-2. Somewhat explosive first two innings. Eric Davis of Cincinnati on deck. Two balls, two strikes. Got him. Off-speed pitch, and there wasn't anything he could do about it.
There is a Nolan Ryan curveball. You hear about the Express. A lot of the press that Nolan Ryan gets is about his fastball, but it is the curveball that is absolutely devastating. He has such great stuff, curveball and fastball. You can't look for both of them. You have to look for one. Mitchell looking fastball here, gets the curveball. Great rotation straight down. He's just dead.
Remarkable rotation because of the camera work. You could actually see the seams on that ball. As we now have Eric Davis check in. That's a super slow-mo camera, and it's remarkable. Eric Davis hits one foul off to the right out of play. Eric Davis, and this typifies what goes on in the All-Star game. He had a clause in his contract about getting $55,000, something like that, if he is selected to the All-Star team. And then the discussion became, well, wait a minute, is it 55 being elected or selected? And the Reds announced, hey, we're not going to get into that. He's got the bonus. In the dirt, nice save by Terry Steinbach. But that does put a lot of heat on each manager, because there are a lot of worthy players who can't come, and no doubt they feel, hey, I've been cheated out of my bonus, my incentive clause.
You know, it's part of the selection process, part of having 28 players. There are a lot of players that you see Tony La Russa looking at all of his lists, both national and American. A lot of players deserve to be here, aren't here.
High fly ball, and it'll be slicing to right field, and Ruben Sierra will wrap it up. So Nolan Ryan leaves Gwynn at second base, and at the end of 2.5, 3-2 American.
Bo Jackson. I'm the kind of guy usually when the opposing team comes into town, I go watch the other team hit, but I think that when Bo comes into town in Kansas City Royals, everybody's downstairs watching Bo hit because you're not going to believe what you're going to see. He's going to hit balls about 600 feet. It's something you've never seen before. It's incredible, so you really have to be there to see it.
And fortunately, we were all here, including Kirby Puckett, who checks in now against Rick Sutcliffe, and promptly greets him with a base hit to left field. So Puckett, a line drive base hit against Sutcliffe. Now Rick Sutcliffe, when you talk about a late arrival, he is really late. Sutcliffe was in Missouri outside of Kansas City. He played golf yesterday. Last night at about 9 o'clock, he got a call from Ned Colletti of the Cubs saying, you have been asked to substitute for the injured Mike Scott. And Rick said, well, that's fine. I'd love to come there, but I got one problem. He said, what's that? He said, I'm 6'7". What about my uniform? The pitch in the dirt to Harold Bain. So Mrs. Ned Colletti went to Wrigley Field and got his uniform, and Sutcliffe came without it, and he got the uniform about 2 hours before the start of the game. But he was delighted to be here, a former Cy Young Award winner who appeared in relief on Sunday against the Dodgers in Wrigley Field. And that's in the dirt, gets away from Santiago. Puckett to second base and holding.
Santiago has a reputation of being outstanding defensive catcher last 2 years, Golden Glove winner in the National League. That pitch just out of his reach. A slider down and in that just keeps breaking away from him. He's just too quick to move his body out in front of the ball.
So Kirby Puckett at second on a wild pitch, and Baines trying to pick him up. 2 balls and no strikes. Ground ball, base hit into right field. Tony Gwynn hoping to make a play and will not have it as Puckett comes in standing up, and the American League takes a 4-2 lead.
You may wonder why Mark McGwire is hitting 8th and why Harold Baines is hitting cleanup. The manager of the American League team, Tony La Russa, managed for several years in Chicago with the White Sox. One of his favorite players was Harold Baines. Tony is a romantic deep down underneath his managerial face, and in one way he's saying thank you to Harold Baines for all the work that he did for him when they were both with the White Sox.
A very quiet man is Baines. He's played on a team which really has not contended but once in his 10 years in the majors. He's from the state of Maryland, and there is some talk in the American League that he would be eventually traded to Baltimore. Julio Franco trying to move him around. Franco singled in the first inning. A number up along third. Sutcliffe bare hand sets and gets him, and on the play Baines advances to second. So 1 out, and Cal Ripken will be coming up.
From the Orioles. You think the Tribune tomorrow will be talking about Harold Baines, the White Sox getting an RBI single off of Rick Sutcliffe, the Trib and the Sun-Times? I'm sure we'll have a box on that in Chicago.
You know, when President Reagan was here, we were talking about Cal Ripken and the fact that his streak began in 1982, and the president was settling into his first administration. To really put it into perspective, maybe that seems like just yesterday to you. As time flies, that's a strike. But here was some of the players who were still active when Cal Ripken started his streak. Wilver Stargell, Johnny Bench, Jim Palmer, Louis Tiant, Jim Kapp, Rusty Staub, and Tom Seaver. And they were all active when it began for him. Out away.
Quietly becoming a senior member of the American League. I mean, a leader deep down with the number of games that he plays. Very intelligent player. His defense, outstanding defense at shortstop, is really more due to his intelligence than his, let's say, his natural ability, like a guy like Ozzie Smith would have. 20 home runs or more. The last 7 years, there only been one other shortstop's ever done that, and his name is Ernie Banks.
0-2. And a shot to the right side to Sandberg, who makes the play over to Will Clark. And Harold Baines moves up a notch to third base. And the batter will be Ruben Sierra.
From the Rangers, right fielder.
Ruben Sierra, to many people in the country, is one of the great secrets. Not, of course, to the players and to the folks in Texas. They know he's a brilliant player.
Free swinging hitter. The thing about Ruben Sierra that many consider him, along with Bo Jackson, the best young talent in the game today. Reminds a lot of people of a Roberto Clemente. Only Sierra will have more home run power than Clemente had.
That's why he's wearing number 21 in memory of Clemente. Show you how young he is, or how durable Nolan Ryan is. Nolan Ryan is Sierra's teammate on Texas in the All-Star team. Nolan pitched his first professional game a few months before Sierra was born in October of 1965. Noli watching him with his good buddy Jimmy Reese. Jimmy Reese, sitting next to Nolan Ryan, was a bat boy for the Los Angeles Angels in 1917. He's had 7 decades in baseball. Nolan Ryan loves him so much that he named his second son Reese after Jimmy. And when Nolan got his 5th no-hitter, he sent the ball to Jimmy Reese. And of course, Reese in baseball history is always remembered as being Babe Ruth's roommate. That's a nice picture.
You know what's so nice about that picture too? You would go into a town where Nolan Ryan would be playing. You know, he'd talk about Jimmy Reese, and then you'd come out here to California, play the Angels, and you go over and say hello to Jimmy Reese, and you know who he'd talk about? Nolan Ryan. And it would never fail. That is a beautiful picture right there.
Jimmy Reese, by the way, 83 years old. Reese, just to go back over baseball for the moment, when he was the bat boy for the Los Angeles Angels, the manager was Frank Chance from Tinkers to Evers to Chance. He played the infield for the Yankees in 1930 and 31, the Cardinals in 1932, and he spent 13 years in the Pacific Coast League. What a lovely man and what a wonderful touch. Ground ball wide. Clark has it off his glove, recovers, fires, too late. The run is over. The Harold Baines brings in the 2nd run of the inning. And it will be ruled a base hit off Will Clark's glove, and an RBI for Ruben Sierra.
Clark, known as a player that can do absolutely everything, a little over aggressive here. You could see how Sandberg was right in position to get the ball, but a very aggressive player, not only offensively with the bat but defensively as well.
Will Clark unable to come up with a ground ball off Ruben Sierra's bat, and now Mark McGuire checks in. McGuire flied to right field in the 2nd inning. 5-2 American, and we're in the bottom of the 3rd inning with 2 out. Kirby Puckett, the fire plug charger for the American League, in the dirt, blocked nicely by Santiago.
Remember before on the pitch that was to Santiago's right there, that slider that he did not move on and allowed Puckett to get to second base earlier in the inning. That time he slid right out in front of him, keeping his chest right out toward the pitching mound, where the ball bounces right back out in front of him.
The American League so far batting .500 tonight, 8 hits in 16 at-bats. That's a strike. So Messrs. Russell allowed 2 runs, Smoltz a run, and Sutcliffe 2. There's Big Daddy, who was shocked, I mean, by the back-to-back blasts by Bo Jackson and Wade Boggs. Hit up the middle for a base hit, so the hit parade continues. Sierra will stop at second base. When Russell came into this game, you know, he was a sinker ball pitcher. He'd only given up 7 home runs all year. He really had to be taken aback, especially because Tony La Russa said, I want him to be uncomfortable immediately. I want him to be disturbed by Bo Jackson leading off. And did Jackson ever disturb him?
7 home runs and 140 innings pitched for the Giants. Having a super year at 12-3 at the All-Star break. A lot of people make fun of him about his size, but he is a super athlete.
0-1 to Terry Steinbach. Last year, you may or may not remember that Russell was selected to the All-Star team, but he did not play. He opted to get married. Don't blame him. Rick Sutcliffe in some trouble. He has given up 4 hits in the inning. Breaking ball.
You know the great thing about looking at Russell on the bench there? That's the way he would have looked if he got out and struck out the side.
Oh, sure.
He'd just sit there just like that's exactly what Rick Russell is. Calm and cool, nothing. Waver back and forth.
Somebody said to him, don't you think it's really ironical that you and Stewart are pitching, etc., etc.? He said, I'm not into irony. Fly ball to right field, and Tony Gwynn wraps it up, and the inning is history. But 2 more for the American League, and at the end of 3, 5-2 American. Russell could be the loser. No. Don't forget tonight on Later with Bob Costas, Bob chats with one of baseball's all-time greats, appropriately enough, Mickey Mantle. So be sure to watch the best in late night entertainment only on NBC.
You guys are going pretty good. You get President Reagan and Costas gets Mickey Mantle. The boys are having a good night.
And the world gets Mark Gubicza. So it's been Stewart, Ryan, and now Gubicza in the 4th inning. And the big right-hander will be working on Howard Johnson, Pedro Guerrero, and Ryan Sandberg. So Gubicza becomes our 6th pitcher, and we're just starting up in the 4th. The American League hitters have already enjoyed the evening. 8 of the 9 starters have at least 1 base hit. Cal Ripken has hit into a force play and grounded out. Everybody else has climbed aboard the wagon. Howard Johnson singled to drive in a run in the 1st inning. Davey Johnson talking about Howard Johnson. Our season more or less has been a Howard Johnson highlight film. You bet it has been. 22 home runs, 57 runs batted in. And in his own words, as Howard says, I firmly believe it, I'm the best 3rd baseman in the National League. Chopper foul outside of 1st.
Some talk that he may be the best shortstop in the National League. He's talking about they may move him to shortstop for offensive reasons. Obviously, there's talk of being unhappy with Elster swinging the bat. I think that would be a mistake. He's a great offensive player. Going to play 3rd and be comfortable for you. And going to be in one position, concentrated on his offense, and just concentrate on the defense at 3rd base.
If you joined us a little bit late, the National League started out as if they're going to run away with it. They had 2 runs, 3 hits. They pulled off a double steal. But it has been all American League since then. Mark McGwire picking that one nicely, 1 down. In the bottom of the 1st inning, a tremendous home run by Bo Jackson. Not that it's 404 to center. That's far enough. But the Bo, Vincent Edward Jackson, hit one up into the black background of the 2nd deck in center field. The black background that they use to furnish as a background for the hitters. I don't know where that spot would be. 450, I don't know. What a shot. Strike to Pete Guerrero, who flied to left field in the 1st inning. Might have had himself 2 RBIs if the fly ball falls, but the ever-present Bo Jackson was there to pick it off. Good fastball.
You can be fooled by looking at Gubicza's number. I mean, numbers in the sense that he's only 8 and 6, but an earned run average of just over 2.5. Maybe the best slider in the game today. Very, very hard slider. Good fastball, has become very effective. 20-game winner last year when he decided and learned that he didn't have to throw everything 800 miles an hour. He should just try to muscle everything. Fastball, slider, he tried to muscle it through the strike zone. He has been a workhorse for the Kansas City Royals and much more effective since he is starting to make that transition from thrower to pitcher.
You know, you talk about a workhorse. Today, if a pitcher works 220, you figure he's working a lot. Gubicza might be the throwback type and go 300 innings. There was that slider and a check swing by Guerrero as the ball exploded, and he fouled it away.
Gubicza throw the hard stuff inside, and there you can see the slider very tight. Guerrero trying to catch up to it and just enough to foul it off.
3-2 the count to Pete Guerrero. For Guerrero, it shows you what will happen if you change ballparks and change teams. It's a big difference playing in the airport that is Busch Stadium. In 1985, you may remember, he set a National League record by hitting 15 home runs in the month of June. He didn't hit any home runs in June this year. Ground ball to Boggs. That'll take care of it.
Boggs throwing with a sore arm at third base. He hurt his shoulder sliding into a base in Boston just prior to the All-Star game. Had an injection in his shoulder to try and relieve some of the discomfort before he came here to Anaheim. And he says, I just hope it heals enough. In a couple of days I can make some throws. You can see him almost short arm the ball. Does not want to extend it. You know, throw and then bring the arm. Oh, you see him bring it in. So he is having a little bit of trouble throwing to third base.
Well, if you're somebody like Ozzie Smith, you might immediately see that throw and say, I wonder about laying one down and what kind of a throw. And Ozzie sits there with Kevin Mitchell and Coach Bill Russell alone with his thoughts. Out on deck, Mike Scioscia prepares to bat for Benito Santiago. So we'll see if they try to put some pressure on Boggs at all, but this has become a slugfest anyway. The American League, 2 runs in the first inning, 1 in the second, and 2 more in the third to lead 5-2.
In 1988, Gubicza averaged almost 8 innings per start. Almost 8 innings per start. This year, 20 starts, 161 innings. He is just over 8 innings per start.
Fastball missed. 2 balls, 2 strikes to Ryne Sandberg, who's been the Cubs' second baseman since 1982. He's been something. He's had at least 600 at-bats in 6 of his 7 full years, which means he gives you a hard day's work every day.
One of those players that doesn't say much. And very quietly just keeps adding on the numbers.
The only time he went on the DL, a very close play at first base in Busch Stadium in St. Louis, and he extended himself to beat the throw, hit the bag awkwardly, sprained an ankle, and had to go on the DL. Only time. 2-2. Oh, the breaking ball got him. He gave on it, and that hard slider nailed him. Toughest pitch in the world at this time especially, and the National League is gone in order. We're going to the bottom of the 4th inning. We have a moment. It'll be Bo Jackson, Wade Boggs, and Kirby Puckett. And for those who did not see it, watch where this ball went in the first inning. Rick Russell, a sinker ball pitcher, and Jackson took him into the deepest part of center field. Jackson will be facing a new battery trying to outwit him. Mike Scioscia of the Dodgers will take over behind the plate. And Tim Burke on the mound. And seeing Tim Burke, that is another great human interest story here in the All-Star game. Tim and his wife Christine adopted a little Korean girl recently, maybe a year or so ago. His wife is now in Guatemala, And as soon as he is pitching here, Tim will go to Los Angeles, get on an airplane, fly to Guatemala, because he and Christine are adopting a baby boy, 2-year-old. Line drive base hit for Bo Jackson. So it is really heartwarming with all of the other things you hear and read about, to read and hear of the Tim Burke story. So Bo Jackson has a home run, a single, and a stolen base. And Wade Boggs will be the batter. Willie Mays in the second game, remember they used to play 2 All-Star games back in 1960, had a home run and a stolen base. There goes Bo, but it's going to be a hit and run ground ball. He would have stolen second base. He had such a big jump on Tim Burke, but he loses the steal as Boggs grounds out.
Unusual for Boggs to swing at the first pitch, too. He may not have known that Bo is going. Boggs has great concentration at the plate, and maybe he did not see Bo go. Boggs always a reputation for taking pitches at the plate, and he must not have seen the sign or misread the sign. It wasn't a hit and run.
Seeing those two, also 2 contract extensions. We talked about Wade Boggs. Tony La Russa received a 3-year extension on his contract to manage the Oakland A's. Kirby Puckett lifting a fly ball to left center. Eric Davis. Bo is going to tag, and Davis has a good arm. Here's the challenge, and it will be the Bo going in on his landing gear. So Jackson single, took second as Boggs grounded out. Takes third on Kirby Puckett's fly ball. And Harold Baines will be coming up.
You know, we talked about before the game about whether players really care, if it means something to them. Is it a game they'll hustle in? Look at this. This guy has been all over the field. This is a stage and he can show his talents, and he is certainly doing it tonight.
Thinking that he went into third like a fullback, it reminded us National League President Bill White introduced him to the media corps the other day as Bo Jackson from the Los Angeles Raiders. But of course you can understand, Bo knows them all. You betcha. He might be the first 40-40 man and 500-yard man. After all, Bo, I think in one game last year against Seattle, he rushed for 220 some odd yards. Harold Baines hit back to the box in the first inning, single to right field to drive in Puckett in the third. So Baines 1 for 2. The American League has been all over the National League pitchers. 2 runs charged to Russell, 1 to Smoltz, 2 to Sutcliffe. So Burke trying to get by. Russell and Stewart, the starters, gave up 2, so they're not involved in it. And so much for the Bay rivalry, huh? Dave Stewart and Rick Russell, Oakland and San Francisco.
You can see Burke trying to feed Harold Baines lots of off-speed stuff. Harold, a very good fastball hitter. Will use all the field. Will hit the ball hard to left center. He'll look for that fastball middle in. If he gets 2 strikes, he will go to left center with the ball. Try to make him hit the off-speed stuff.
And Harold Baines comes up empty, so they leave Bo Jackson at third, and at the end of 4 it remains 5-2 American League. We'll be back after these messages from your local station.
The 1989 All-Star Game is brought to you by your Toyota dealer. Whatever car or truck you choose, you'll love the quality. Who could ask for anything more? And by Amoco. For 100 years, you've come to expect more from a leader.
2 changes for the American League. Gary Gaetti takes over at third, and Mike Moore on the mound.
You think these players don't care? You think they're not concerned about winning this? Gaetti replacing Boggs at third base, coming out doing his own groundskeeping.
The good housekeeping seal of approval.
And down. And no wonder this guy has worked extremely hard, and he is a legitimate Gold Glove candidate at third base. Many scouts feel that he has the best reflexes and best arm of anybody in the American League who plays third base.
Mike Moore comes out of the bullpen, and he'll be pitching to Mike Scioscia, followed by Ozzie Smith and then Tony Gwynn. Fastball strike. Interesting turnabout for Mike Moore. He was 30 games under 500 in his Mariners career, and it ended when he signed with Oakland as a free agent. And suddenly he's an all-star. Last year, 6-4 in the Kingdome, 311 on the road. But I guess the biggest thing, the way La Russa and his pitching coach Dave Duncan have worked him in the pitching staff. Moore last work on Thursday for Tony. He worked 7 innings on Thursday, so he's well rested.
You wonder if Tony is going to run his pitchers out there 1 inning at a time, which he's done so far. All the pitchers for the American League have been starting pitchers. Stewart started, Ryan started, Gubazov, Moore, and he's got the bullpen ready. There's one more starter down there, and Greg Swindell. Then he's and Chuck Finley. Then he's got Henneman, Jones, Plesac, and Russell.
That's all.
That's all. So maybe. So it looks like exactly the way things have gone. Swindell will pitch the next inning for the American League. Only problem there is if you have the extra inning game, then you get down with these short relievers, which the American League has at the end, and those guys aren't used to going more than 1 or 2 innings at most.
Well, it's 5-2 in favor of the American League, and the National League's going to have to go to the whip if they're going to get close. Mike Scioscia in his first all-star at bat hits one down the left field line, foul and out of play. Sitting quietly, one of the premier relief pitchers, Doug Jones, and look where he's decided to sit, far from the madding throng.
That's a great job.
Isn't that something? I want to be alone. 3-2. A slicing fly ball to left. Bo Jackson is there. Ozzie Smith will be coming up with 1 out here in the 5th inning. And certainly you may remember Game 5, 1985 National League Championship Series. Tom Niedenfuhr of the Dodgers, and St. Louis set on its ear. Oh, it happens every 4,000 at bats.
Oh, yeah.
Like clockwork.
It's just timing. It's not how many you hit, it's when you hit them. The Wizard can do it.
He is incredible. Single to center and fouled out. 1 for 2. We were asking him once about his acrobatic ability, and he said as little kids they used to go near a furniture store. There's a lot of sawdust on the floor, and they'd take a sway back board and put it between 2 sawhorses, and they would bounce on the board and then fly into the sawdust. Then eventually he got to where they were using trampoline, and he does a rather remarkable backflip sometimes in taking his position. And when he was on the DL, his son, his little boy, ran out and did the backflip. Osborne Smith.
You ever tried one of those backflips?
Oh no, thank you very much.
Have you ever thought about it?
No. No. 2-2.
All I do is see pain if I think about doing it.
Big breaking ball down at the ankles. So 3-2. The National League has had 1 hit since the 1st inning, and that's a scratch single by Tony Gwynn in the 3rd. So they've been completely shut down, and all Lasorda can do is stand and lose weight. Chopper to the right side. There's Julio Franco. 2 down.
Mike Moore, the pitcher here for the American League, has always been a favorite of Dave Duncan, the pitching coach for Athletics, and Tony La Russa. La Russa brought Duncan with him, one of his coaches, his pitching coach. There you can see the 2 of them together. They have been together when they were in Chicago and now in Oakland. Tony La Russa's right-hand man, Dave Duncan. And Moore always loved him when he pitched at Seattle. Last year, second half of last year, he was 5-6. So what? Yeah, but he had an earned run average of about 2.25, and that convinced the Oakland A's to go out and sign him, certainly with the suggestion of La Russa and Duncan.
Off speed for a strike. 1-1. By the way, we have been negligent in not spotlighting the coaches, and there's been a change in the coaches for the National League on the line. See if we can salute them. Half swing by Tony Gwynn. Coaching at first base is the National League honorary captain, Don Drysdale. Went into the Hall of Fame in 1984. Coaching over at third, the skipper of the Montreal Expos, who formerly was here with the California Angels, Buck Rogers. And it's still 5-2 American League. The sun is shining on the American League right now. We're in the bottom of the 5th inning. It is 5-2 American. Several changes for the National League. Glenn Davis, the pride of Houston, picks up for Will Clark. And Andre Dawson, a great right fielder for the Chicago Cubs, will now pick up for Tony Gwynn. Tim Burke, who pitched the 4th inning, gave up a base hit and nothing else. Working on Julio Franco, who singled and hit back to the box. Franco played 16 big league games when the Phillies traded him, and 4 other players for Von Hayes. That was after the '82 season. Now both Franco and Hayes are in this year's All-Star game, each for the first time. And well, he should be. He's already exceeded his RBI total of the last 2 years. There's Von Hayes. For Franco, somewhat of an unorthodox stance. It should also be noted he's the first member of the Texas Rangers to start in an All-Star game since Richie Zisk, and that goes back to 1978. Julio Franco, second baseman. Hit in the air and slicing to right. Dawson, who has collected a room full of Gold Gloves, makes the play. 1 out.
The shortstop, Cal Ripken Jr.
New defense for the National League club, and the new changes coming in: Dawson, Davis, and Scioscia.
And we would like to show you the American League coaches. Good men and true. As Cal Ripken steps in, there is Joe Morgan of the Boston Red Sox. He's coaching at first. Check swing foul by Ripken. And over at third, and he has to really be singing like all the other Angels, in first place with the best record in the major leagues at the All-Star break, Doug Rader. In a sense, when you talk about Rader and the Angels leading, certainly 3 of the 4 divisions have been surprises. Slicing drive, a base hit, and Dawson can only knock it down, and Ripken is into second base with a double. So Cal Ripken, a line drive double to right. He's 1 for 3, and that means he has joined the party. All 9 American League starters have at least 1 hit.
Ripken, his base running very aggressive. 16 doubles during the season so far, and you're running against one of the best arms here. If Andre Dawson had ever gotten to the ball and fielded it cleanly, it had been close at second. Andre was going to spin to his right and throw back. Ripken does not run extremely well, and Dawson has a cannon in right field.
Tony Fernandez is now going to run for Cal Ripken.
Ripken with a double down the right field line, and do almost everything in the game, and his speed is just average. And once he gets to scoring position at second base, Tony La Russa puts a little speed out there in Fernandez.
The runner at second, 1 out. Ruben Sierra, switch hitter, and he is 2 for 2. Single to right and singled off Will Clark's glove in the 3rd inning. The American League, 5 runs, 11 hits. The National League, 2 runs, 4 hits. For the National League, they've had 1 hit since the 1st inning. They have been dead in the water, and the American League keeps getting men aboard. Little roller up along first to Glenn Davis. He'll take it to the bag, and moving over to third is Fernandez. each manager with so many players available. Both Tommy Lasorda and Tony La Russa can make wholesale changes. They're backed up in every position.
You can see Tony going down the bench there and asking somebody if they're going to go in. Let's see, they'll be going in the number 5 spot here for the American League. Probably for Franco. This looks like where Tony was riding.
And Don Mattingly reaching up, and it could be that as he gets his glove, we're going to see Mattingly soon.
There comes some leather.
And here's Mark McGwire. Flied to right, single to center, 1 for 2. 1-0 the count. Fastball. 2-0.
Tim Burke was the setup man for Jeff Reardon at Montreal. He's 17 saves so far this season. Not enough now in this game. We have some of the closers, and they went through their education process and were setup men.
And a box to the short, and up with it is Ozzie, and the throw is just in time to get him. It seemed like McGwire took a long time to get to first, but it's typical of Ozzie Smith never to quit, and it turned out to be a good play. Out of the glove, but he still has an arm left, and McGwire must have felt it was more than what it was to get to the bag. A Yankee right side of the infield for the All-Stars as Don Mattingly takes over at first base, and he will hit in Julio Franco's spot. Mattingly at first. Steve Sachs will take over at second base. He will bat 8th in Mark McGwire's spot. Tony Fernandez, who ran for Cal Ripken, stays in the game and plays shortstop. And we have a new pitcher, and that would be Greg Swindell. So Swindell, the left-hander, last year, you may remember, he started out 10-1. Then he didn't win another game for almost 2 months. And he finally, and ironically, got that 11th victory last year right here in Anaheim. Well, he's been a lot more consistent this year. Started 2-0, had no decisions in his next 3, but then he's picked up a couple of starts without a win. So he could be Cleveland's first 20-game winner since Gaylord Perry 15 years ago. He'll be pitching to Glenn Davis, Kevin Mitchell, and Eric Davis. Late and fouled it off to the right upstairs, 0-1.
Yes, great control for a young pitcher. Swindell does. 1988, he pitched 240 innings. Walked only 45 men. And that's really pretty good. That's just less than 2 per game. And for a young pitcher, that's great.
Drive into center for a base hit. Over to get it is Kirby Puckett. So Glenn Davis opens up with a base hit. Only the second hit for the National League since the first inning. The other hit, a single by Tony Gwynn in the 3rd. And the batter now will be Kevin Mitchell. Mitchell single to center to drive in a run, scored a run, and then struck out in the 3rd inning. That was that great curveball that Nolan Ryan got him looking. Ryan worked 2 innings. Stewart worked 1, then Ryan 2, Gubazar 1, Moore 1, and now Swindell. One and one to count to Kevin Mitchell. The American got back-to-back home runs, down 2-0 in the first inning to tie it up, and they have really been in control up to now. And we're in the 6th.
Mitchell, 17 intentional base on balls this year. One of the criticisms, and people talk about the San Francisco Giants, is they don't have anybody swinging the bat behind him. Now, Mitchell, of course, hits right behind Will Clark. And Clark right in the catbird seat, and you hear talk all the way around baseball about the Giants making a deal to get somebody to hit behind Mitchell.
I was just thinking he can turn on that answering machine again, Ken Clark, because the thrill is gone for the remainder of the game anyway. Sitting there with Tony Gwynn. 2-2 to Kevin Mitchell. Good fastball, and that had followed an off-speed pitch. So for the second time, Mitchell is blown away.
Talk about attacking Mitchell. Fastball's in off the plate. Want to get it in off the plate. Swindell left that one on the plate inside, but simply threw the ball right by him, trying to make him collapse those arms a little bit. You could see that left elbow give slightly. It's those great big thumpers. That's what you want to do.
Eric Davis at the plate, walked and flied to right, hits a slicing foul ball down the right field line, and it will drop untouched and kangaroo up into the seats. Paid attendance tonight, 64,036. 64,036 on a beautiful late afternoon, early evening. And the big surprise, with all the conjecture about how tough it was going to be with the sunshine and the shadows, they went right after each other. Most runs in the first inning in 10 years. They each scored twice. 0-1 to count to Eric Davis. Davis walked, front man on a double steal, and flied to right field in the third.
You know, the last 5 All-Star games, American League has only scored 7 runs. They've won 2 out of the last 3.
Off speed, hard ground ball to Fernandez, down to Sachs, and back to Mattingly. Double play, 6-4-3. And the lid is slammed on the National League once again. And at the end of 5.5, American League 5, National League 2. Big A in Anaheim, the home of the California Angels, celebrating our 60th All-Star game. And right in the middle of things, with the American League leading handily 5-2, the National goes to the bullpen for left-hander Mark Davis of the San Diego Padres. He wasn't yet a closer when he was included in that big 7-player deal 2 years ago, in which Kevin Mitchell went to the Giants. But boy, he has become one of the strong pitchers in the National League. Ground ball to Sandberg. He has to wait for Davis to get back to the bag. 1 out. We alluded to Bo Jackson's home run. If you didn't see it, it was really worth seeing in the first inning. And it illustrates just how far he can hit a ball. Now look where this thing goes. Not just over the fence. Way up in there. He keeps everybody in a scramble. So here he is. Jackson, the home run. He had a stolen base in the second inning, and for good measure, a base hit to right. And that was in the fourth.
He's been on base every time he's been up there in the first, second, and the fourth inning. You see the size of his arms, and somebody is finally throwing him some off-speed stuff. Davis, maybe the best curveball in baseball today.
Yeah, I think you agree.
Yep.
Certainly in the National League.
And can throw that heat. Now, he threw that ball right by Bo Jackson out over the plate, and that's right where Jackson likes to hit the ball. And he has several home runs to right field.
Good curveball to punch him up. Now that's an idea of what kind of a pitcher Davis is. He breaks off that nasty curveball and strikes out Bo Jackson.
Well, it's 3 pitches, and on the bench you can hear people in the National League saying good morning, good afternoon, and this one is good night.
Welcome to the club.
Welcome to the club. You have just punched out on 3 pitches.
The batter now will be Gary Gaetti. Breaking ball in there for a strike. Gaetti is one of those fellows who hit a home run in his first big league at bat way back in 1981. Another breaking ball strike. Gaetti hit 2 home runs in his first opening day in the major leagues in '82, and for good measure he hit home runs in his first 2 at bats in the playoffs in '87. He makes things happen at big moments. Out away.
Great all-around player, defensively and offensively. 680 since 1986. He's hit about 280. Average about 31 home runs, average exactly 31 home runs, and over 100 RBIs. And a legit Golden Glove player at third base.
0-2 to Gary Gaetti. I was just thinking, too, you know what's different about this game? No Dave Winfield. It's the first time we haven't seen Dave Winfield in an All-Star game since 1976. And no George Brett. He hadn't played in one anyway since 1975. There were, I think, 3 where he was selected, but because of injuries he couldn't play. 2-2 the count to Gary Gaetti. Kirby Puckett on deck. So the Minnesota Twins are on display. Curveball got him looking, and now the American League can understand why Mark Davis is so widely heralded in the National. We'll be back after these messages from your local station.
The 1989 All-Star Game is brought to you by Mitsubishi, bringing you the Eclipse Sports Coupe. See it at your Mitsubishi dealer. And by Budweiser. Beechwood aged for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you.
The American League making several changes. Mickey Tettleton will pick up behind the plate for Terry Steinbach. In left field, Mike Greenwell will finish for Bo Jackson. In center, feeling very much at home, the Angels' Devon White. Howard Johnson will start it off in the 7th, followed by Pedro Guerrero, and not Guerrero. The pitch is fouled off first, and this one will be out of play. Bobby Bonilla comes out on deck now, and he will hit for Guerrero. Let's face it, the managers are trying very hard to win, but they are also trying as hard as they can to get every player in the game, if at all possible.
That's one thing managers have always tried to do, is to get everybody into the ballgame if they can. They're deathly afraid of the extra inning game. Of course, the last time the game played here in Anaheim, 1967, 15 innings.
One ball and one strike.
You worry about a catcher getting hurt. You worry about extra innings and having enough pitching. The American League, 5 pitchers they have left, all of them short relievers.
And looking at the American League team, now that Greenwell and Mattingly are in along with Sachs, there are 2 players that Tony La Russa would like to get in, position players, Kelly Gruber and Jeffrey Leonard. And then he has several pitchers. 2-1 to Hojo. Fouled away. He singled. He was the trailer on the double steal in the first inning and grounded out in the 4th. The National League got 2 in the first inning, and the American League got home runs back-to-back by Jackson and Boggs. The American League scored once in the 2nd to take the lead, twice more in the 3rd, and the National League has been unable to muster any kind of an offense since that first inning. 2-2. Got him. So Johnson strikes out. That would be the 2nd strikeout for Greg Swindell.
Your attention, please.
Johnson hitting from the left side is a better contact hitter. From the right side, he is a dead high fastball hitter. There, the breaking ball right over the top of it. He's a lot stiffer right-handed. Left-handed, he seems to be very smooth and very coordinated. He's extremely strong, and from the right-hand side, he just muscles the ball out when he hits his home runs.
Here's Bobby Bonilla, big switch-hitting third baseman of the Pittsburgh Pirates. Bonilla with a lot of power and plays third base for the Bucks. He was originally in the Yankee organization, and Sid Thrift got him to come to Pittsburgh. A little flare that's going to drop into left field. And from what we've heard, one of the first things that Sid Thrift was trying to do with the Yankees is now try and get Bonilla back.
He trades him off and trades him, tries to get him back is exactly right. And if you took a vote in the clubhouse, the most popular or the nicest guy, this young fellow right there, Bobby Bonilla, may be the winner.
From New York, New York.
Yes, he is. He is sincerely one of the nicest young men you'd ever want to meet.
Bonilla went 0 for 4 in last year's game, so that's got to be kind of a nice feeling for him. He gets his first All-Star hit. Ryan Sandberg, the batter, and Tony Pena, the Cardinal catcher, is out on deck to hit for Sosa. Fastball, strike. So they get a right-handed bat up there against the left-handed Greg Swindell. Change, stayed up.
My scorecard is starting to look worse and worse. Not, you know, there are a lot of changes, obviously, in an All-Star game. I bring that up only because before the president left, I had him sign my scorecard as one of my souvenirs.
Ground ball, foul, just foul. Gaetti probably would have backhanded a fair ball because his glove was so close to the bag. The only way he would avoid it is if it was foul. There's a good line on it right here.
It's kind of a mark of the good third baseman, is that the ball he almost gets to, but the ball's foul. Now, the great thing about that shot, had the ball been fair, he probably would have cut it. Knows exactly how far he is from the line. And it looks like from that angle that had the ball been fair, Gaetti would have been able to get his glove on the ball.
Sandberg is fouled out and struck out. He's 0 for 2. Fastball and foul tip and held. So that's the third strikeout for Greg Swindell. Take another look.
One of the other products of the University of Texas, just like Roger Clemens and Calvin Schiraldi.
Your attention, please.
I'm telling you, that's fastball throwing it by. Pretty good fastball contact hitter. Sandberg does not strike out very much.
Tony Pena will be the batter, and Tony La Russa is heading for the mound. He might make a change mid-inning. Remember, he still has Mike Henneman, Doug Jones, and Jeff Russell. And Jeff Russell is up and getting ready if he wants to make the move. And he does. They say, thanks, Greg, for the work, and there he goes. So Swindell will come out, and the 6th American League pitcher will be Texas Jeff Russell coming in from the bullpen. 5-2 American. Now as Jeff Russell comes in to go head-to-head with the pinch hitter Tony Pena, and that's a strike. Russell, as he stands on the mound, made the All-Star team as a starting pitcher last year when the Rangers traded Mitch Williams to the Cubs. That left them without an established reliever, and Russell said he wanted the job. Now he's been the big man. Breaking ball in the dirt, swung on and missed. So in a sense, when you see Jeff Russell, you immediately think of Dennis Eckersley. He has now made the All-Star team as both a starter and a reliever. And he comes in trying to get Tony Pena, who's probably more different than any player out there. I think if you talk to these players, they'll tell you about the influence of their father. Tony Pena is the only major league player I've ever heard of who said it was my mother who taught me to play this game. 0-2. Fouled away. Still 0-2.
Russell 4-2 with an earned average under 2, 20 saves for the Texas Rangers. The reason he has become effective, very good 90-mile-an-hour plus fastball, but he quit nibbling. He becomes much more aggressive now. Will go right after the hitters. He used to get behind in the count a lot. He used to ride the ball on the corners. Now he go right after the hitters.
You know, you say how good a hitting catcher is Tony Pena. His career average going into this year was 275. Now let's look at some of the others. Gary Carter, 267. Carlton Fisk, 270. Lance Parrish, 257. And he can get a leg hit. Busted bat, ground ball to Mattingly. He'll take it to the bag, and that's that. So Russell saws one off in Pena's hands. No runs, 1 hit, a man left. And here's another edition of State Farm Rules of the Game.
We invite you to join.
Rules of the Game brought to you by State Farm Insurance. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Hi folks, Doug Harvey, National League umpire. Glad to be back with you today, and I tell you what we've got. The batter starts his swing, and as he does, the catcher sticks his glove in there. The batter's bat hits the catcher's glove. Tell you how we're going to rule on it in just a minute. Folks, the batter swinging the bat, it hits the catcher's glove. Tell you what we're going to do, we're going to rule it interference by the catcher, which means the man's going to get first base. However, you have to understand if the ball is batted, then the offensive team's manager may elect to take the results of the play. That's Rule 608C. Now you look it up.
That's today's edition of Rules of the Game, brought to you by State Farm Insurance. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Marv Albert with Bo Jackson, and the Bo Jackson legend continues. First pitch, very first All-Star at bat, and you hit it out. Was there anything in particular you were looking for from Rick Russell?
Well, not really. The guys told me that he was mainly slider, a sinker ball pitcher, and he left one. He I think he left his sinker out over the plate just a little bit, and I was able to golf swing and get a piece of it.
Bo, 3 years ago, you were struggling in the big leagues, and the same holds true for 2 years back, and there were people doubting that you could do it in both sports. Is there a sense of revenge in that you have certainly answered those who had doubted that you could do it in both sports at the same time?
Well, I really don't pay any type of attention to that. The only people that I worry about not doubting me is my family, and they were behind me 100%, and that's all that really mattered.
Will it ever come to a point where you feel you will have to choose football or baseball?
One day.
Leaning to anything at this point, particularly the way the baseball career of Bo Jackson has gone?
One day.
One day.
One day.
All right, one day. It says baseball all-star Bo Jackson. Let's get back to Vin.
All right, gentlemen, several changes, and rather than just hurl them all at you, let's go slowly. You're looking at Jay Howell on the mound, pitching to Devon White of the California Angels, a host player, and he gets a roar of approval. Part of the fun going on here is not only national versus American, but it's Anaheim versus Los Angeles. Anyone who's had anything to do with the Dodgers, they boo soundly, including Steve Sachs, who's now a Yankee. It's really something.
You know, it was fun before the game when Sachs and Mattingly standing side by side, right? Sachs is introduced, boo. Mattingly from New York, and out-of-towner, hooray, and they cheered him.
Ground ball wide at first. Glenn Davis will do it himself. So that's one down. Now let's take a look defensively just to kind of set the picture. We're at that stage of the game. Von Hayes has taken over for Eric Davis in center. Willie Randolph has taken over at second base for Ryne Sandberg. And Tim Wallach has taken over at third for Howard Johnson. Now, you saw Tony Pena hit for Socia, and Jay Howell is the 6th National League pitcher. So to keep track of the position players, the American League has 2 players left, and here is Jeffrey Leonard. So that means only Kelly Gruber is out. Leonard hitting for Baines. So Kelly Gruber is the only position player yet to get in the game. Meanwhile, the National League, there are only 2 players on the outside looking in, Vince Coleman and Barry Larkin. Leonard wearing the 0-0, and it seems like yesterday he was hitting a home run against the Cardinals and then running with that flaps down home run trot, remember? Jeffrey Leonard. He decided to go 0-0 because, as he said, his whole career was starting all over again. He's starting from scratch.
He went up to play for Jimmy Lefevre up in Seattle, and Jimmy Lefevre had been with Jeffrey Leonard quite a bit. And there's a scouting report on him. We'll jump on the off-speed pitch. In the strike zone. A good in the strike zone hitter. It's a fastball up. Pitch him hard stuff in off the plate. But he's been a very comfortable player for Jimmy Lefevre. Very good relationship with his manager.
Foul ball hit down the right field line, out of play. 2-2 the count on Jeffrey Leonard.
You know, you go over and you look at the scouting reports of all the players on both teams side by side as you look at Don Mattingly, the Yankee first baseman, in the on-deck circle. One of the things about scouting reports, and it would apply to virtually every hitter on the field here tonight, a great mistake hitter.
On the inside corner for strike 3. Jeffrey Leonard can't believe that off-speed pitch got it, and the plate umpire Jim Evans punched him out.
Howell, a good breaking ball, starts right at Jeffrey Leonard's left shoulder. You can see his left shoulder would come off there and could not regroup. But you could look at any one of these hitters and the mark of the good hitters, and that's why these guys are all-stars. That's why they are here, that they are good mistake hitters. When they get their pitch to hit, they will not miss it. They won't hit it foul. They won't hit it back on the screen behind home plate. They will put it in play hard somewhere.
Mattingly looking for his first All-Star hit. He is 0 for 8 in 5 previous All-Stars. So he's a pretty hungry hitter.
You know what he says? You know, every time I get up there to hit, they have Fernando Valenzuela or some tough left-hander going to throw against me. He said, maybe I'll get a right-hander, and he does tonight.
1-1. There's that breaking ball. 2-1 the count. Will Clark explaining with Tony Gwynn, two very good left-hand hitters, and they are really riveted looking at the stance of Mattingly, who gets his first All-Star hit, and it's going to be an extra base hit as Andre Dawson runs it down. Don Mattingly with a stand-up double. And remember, a few years ago, both Howell and Mattingly were teammates for the Yankees back in 1984. That's a rude way to say hello.
See him talk to Ozzie Guillen at shortstop. He says, that's my first All-Star game hit. And very typically a double. Mattingly last year went to the plate 600 times, 599 times, struck out only 29 times. A great contact hitter, arguably the best hitter the last 5 years in the major leagues. He's got the most RBIs and the most total bases.
Here's Tony Fernandez. 1 ball and no strike. We mentioned at the very start of the ball game how baseball has spread so much that of the 56 All-Stars, 6 came from Latin countries. And Tony Fernandez, Julio Franco, and Pedro Guerrero, not only All-Stars, but they're all from the same city in the Dominican Republic. San Pedro de Macorís fouled away. In the same game in the first week of the year, Tony Fernandez hit a grand slam home run and then was hit in the face by Texas Cecilio Guante. He suffered a broken cheekbone and he missed several weeks. Glad to see he's back, and a great accomplishment to come back and make the All-Star squad. Ruben Sierra on deck. Hit down the left field line, slicing, foul, and out of play.
Ozzie Smith will get a lot of the press, and deservedly so, as the outstanding shortstop in the game today. But a lot of scouts will tell you that the guy at the plate today, Fernandez, has taken over the position as the best shortstop in the game. 66 games this year, only 2 errors, and his RBI total has gone up every year, each of the last 5 years.
1-2, and that curveball, he fouled it away, so he's still alive. There's Barry Larkin blowing the bubble gum and chewing the gum as Vince Coleman of the Cardinals. Whether Barry Larkin would play defensively is questionable. He has a sore elbow. We'd have to just wait and see, but that might be one reason why Ozzie's going the distance up to here. Little roller up along first. Glenn Davis cuts it off at the pass, goes to the bag, and that's it. So the American League wastes the double by Mattingly. At the end of 7, it remains American League 5, National League 2.
Spaghetti, lasagna, linguine, rigatoni, tortellini, anything that ends with a vowel. Argue with an umpire? Let Kirk Gibson bunt with the bases loaded. And I'd never let a friend drink and drive. Winners work as a team.
If you plan to drink,
then choose a designated driver.
The preceding message was furnished by Major League Baseball.
We go to the 8th inning, and Ozzie Smith followed by Andre Dawson and Glenn Davis. Ozzie single to center, fouled out and grounded out. Ozzie is 1 for 3, facing Jeff Russell, with the Americans sitting on top of a 5-2 lead. That's in there. The corners are up. They're looking bunt, though both Gary Gaetti and Don Mattingly shorten up. And the outfield shaded to left a bit, with Devon White slightly towards left center. No pitch. Ozzie had asked for time and backed out. National League has not had a man pass first base since the first inning. Chopper to Sachs to Mattingly. 1 away. Quickly, let's go to Bob Costas with Howard Johnson.
All right, Vin, Hojo, this week, a brand new contract worth $2 million per and an RBI single in the All-Star game. Not a bad stretch for you.
Yeah, it's been an enjoyable week for me. This All-Star game has been a lot of fun.
Now, here you are in a position with Mike Schmidt retiring where you might be the odds-on to be the starting shortstop for the starting third baseman for several years for the National League, but they're talking about moving you to shortstop. Now you got a vault over Ozzie and Barry Larkin.
I know, I'd rather stay at third, but, you know, I was talking to Mike before the game, and it's gonna be tough, you know, not to see him play, but you know, hopefully I can play in a few more All-Star games.
Very briefly, is that the feeling you're getting now, that you will play shortstop in the second half for the Mets?
They haven't told me anything, but I guess they're probably thinking about it, yeah.
Howard Johnson of the Mets back upstairs to Vin and Tom.
1 ball and 1 strike. The count to Andre Dawson. Glenn Davis to follow. Jeff Russell on the hill for the American League. Fastball popped up on the left side. Gary Gaetti in foul ground. 2 down in the 8th inning. Boy, what a number the American League pitchers have done on the National League hitters after Dave Stewart was roughed up for 2 runs in the 1st inning. Then Messrs. Ryan, Gubazar, Moore, Swindell, and Russell have been close to perfect.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Vinny. I have no base on balls for the National League. 2 for the American League. Those coming in the 1st inning by Dave Stewart. Just 2 base on balls.
That's right. The real pro pitcher, not afraid to challenge the hitter.
Exactly right. Hit in the count.
Despite their credentials.
You go back to 1967, the 15-inning game here with the 30 strikeouts. 2 base on balls. Both of them by the National League. None in the American League. A 15-inning game, no base on balls. It's just 2 in the entire game. Those both by the National League.
Dave Stewart, the starting pitcher, sitting quietly, watching what he got underway with some of his mates. Looking in that American League dugout to repeat, the only position player who has not gotten in the game is Kelly Gruber of Toronto. In the National League, Vince Coleman and Barry Larkin. There are still several pitchers who could be used. For instance, in the National League, John Franco, Mitch Williams, Oral Hershiser, and in the National League they will have the American League's counterparts Chuck Finley, Dan Plesac, Mike Henneman, and Doug Jones.
Tony will be well armed to go to the 9th inning, won't he?
I should say. Russell came in to take care of Pena in the 7th inning.
You talk to La Russa, Tony La Russa, of course, the manager for the American League, and he talks about managing a pitching staff, and he and Dave Duncan do it as well as anybody. That is where a manager really is worth his grain of salt, is managing the pitching staff, and Tony will go to the 9th inning with 4 pitchers in the bullpen.
Little foul ball off to the right and out of play. We showed you earlier the honorary National League captain who was coaching at first, Don Drysdale. We have not seen except for his introduction long before the game started, but we'd like to take a moment to salute Carl Yastrzemski, who is the first little leaguer to go into the Hall of Fame. Yaz will go in. He was on 17 All-Star teams and played on 13 of them. Glenn Davis drawing the walk with 2 out, and there's that first walk.
One fielder, Kevin Mitchell.
Howard Johnson started the ball game and now sits back and has a little ice cream as a reward. Kevin Mitchell going all the way in left field, single to center to drive in a run, but then struck out in the 3rd and struck out in the 6th. The strike.
Amazing how all the players can back out on the bench. They don't want to miss an ounce of it, you know. They go in and get a cup of coffee, or they go in and get an ice cream or something cold to drink. They're all there on the bench.
Somebody asked Rick Russell, it's not exactly a tasteful remark, but it tells you the story. Somebody said to Rick, how good is Kevin Mitchell as a hitter? And he said, you don't want to be caught in the John when he's at the plate. And they're all in the dugout to see him rip. But he's 0-2 and on the edge of striking out for the 3rd time. One and 2.
Russell got the 2nd strike there and tried to go back and get it again. The breaking ball down and away. Mitchell likes to hit the breaking ball. Not like any good hitter. You make good pitches on them, you get them out. You make a mistake and leave that breaking ball in the middle of the plate. Even if it is down, if you leave it in the middle of the plate, he's going to hit it hard somewhere.
You know, there's something I'm going to remember, not just visually, but that I heard during this ball game. Ground ball to the hole, and that's a base hit into left field. And the National League with runners at first and second. It's the first time they've had 2 men on since the first inning. It's the first time they've had a runner at second base since the 3rd inning. You know what I'm going to remember hearing? When Bo Jackson was talking about his home run, which went way back in dead center field, he said, quote, "I was lucky to get a piece of it." Thank you very much. And Vince Coleman will now run for Kevin Mitchell at first base.
Your attention, please. For the National League, running at first base, number 29.
Mitchell getting the pitch on the outside part of the plate. Is very strong, is able to pull it in the hole between Gaetti and Fernandez, and Tony La Russa comes right out and will either use his pitching staff or leave Russell in there, but you can have a talk with him first.
He's going to bring in either Chuck Finley or Dan Plesac, because the hitter due up will be Von Hayes, and we shall return.
Marv Albert with Nolan Ryan of the Texas Rangers. Nolan is the pitcher of record. Not bad for a 42-year-old who happens to be the second oldest pitcher in the history of All-Star Baseball. Only Satchel Paige was older at 47 back in 53. And Nolan, 2 strong innings, 3 strikeouts, allowed only 1 hit.
Well, I was real pleased with it. I had a real good changeup. My curveball got better in the 2nd inning, and I think the big key was that I was throwing strikes.
Any special feeling about doing it here, and that you spent 8 years with the California Angels?
Well, it was special coming back to Anaheim Stadium, and it's always been a special place for me to pitch.
No problem, obviously, with the twilight in terms of the hitters.
Well, I think it was different when I pitched here with the Angels before they closed the stadium in. It was tough to see at this time of day, but obviously it wasn't tonight.
Okay, Nolan Ryan of the Texas Rangers. Let's get back to Vin Scully.
Meanwhile, back at the ranch, after Von Hayes went head-to-head with left-hander Dan Plesac, Hayes greeted Plesac with a single to left field to score Davis. That makes it 5-3 American League. The National League now has tying runs at the corners at first and third, and a right-hand hitter, Tim Wallach, is due up. Down in the bullpen, Mike Henneman and Doug Jones are available, and Jones is heating up. So Plesac came in to make a pitch, and Von Hayes was waiting to drive in a run. So Tony La Russa will have to go to the pen again. And now suddenly, with Jones being brought in, he has 1 left-hander down there, Chuck Finley, and 1 right-hander, Mike Henneman. So for Plesac, that's kind of a tough appearance in an all-star game. You warm up, you come in, you make 1 pitch, a base hit, and out you go. And coming in to try and bail him out will be Doug Jones, whom we saw earlier, remember, sitting in the seats far removed from the bullpen. He is right smack dab in the middle of the spotlight now. Von Hayes recently signed a 3-year, $6.4 million contract. And that's why, as he walks up and bangs a base hit to left to drive in a run. So Von, the runner at first, represents the tying run. Vince Coleman running for Kevin Mitchell at third, and Tim Wallach against Doug Jones, and he fouls it away.
One thing to be concerned about here for the National League, for the American League, excuse me, for Tony La Russa. Von Hayes here with the score 5-3. Von Hayes at first. Von Hayes 19 stolen bases, been thrown out 6 times. Big man, but has excellent speed.
And that's hammered to left. Coming up for it is Greenwell to make the catch. And Doug Jones really dodges a bullet as Wallach lines out to left field. And the National through in the 8th at the end of 7.5, 5-3 American.
Number 29.
One of the more flamboyant relief pitchers in the game, Mitch Williams of the Chicago Cubs, has come in, and we visited Mitch about how he would describe his style of pitching.
That is, I've watched Rick Sutcliffe and some of the other guys, the Rick Rushells of the league, that go out there and they throw sliders and curveballs, and it looks like they're doing it from a lawn chair. And I just stated one day that I go out there and pitch like my hair's on fire, like I'm in a hurry to get things done. And that's basically how I go about the game. Is I know I have to go hard at what I do, and those guys just take it easy and they get the same results.
Well, we shall see now about the colorful Mitch Williams, and he'll be pitching to Ruben Sierra, followed by Steve Sachs. and then Mickey Tettleton.
That is the favorite quote of one of baseball's best-known baseball announcers.
I love it. Fouled away, 0-1.
That is your favorite. I don't blame you. It's terrific.
There it is. Well, I've heard.
It is terrific.
I love that
right.
description. You know, they used to say about I think Jim Bunning, they say he pitched like a man falling out of a tree, but hair on fire. There he goes. 1 ball and 1 strike to count to Ruben Sierra. Sierra single to right, single off Will Clark's glove, grounded out, 2 for 3, scored a run, and he has knocked in a run. I don't know how Mitch Williams ever defends against a bunt or a ball just dribbled to the first base side of the mound, because he comes hurtling off and turns his back to the plate.
He gets in miserable fielding position.
Amazing.
That is just his style. You could see the speed gun down on the right-hand corner, fastball 88 miles an hour, but he just plants that lead leg and stiffens it out and uses it at a fulcrum, just spins right around.
And he walks Ruben Sierra to begin matters in the bottom of the 8th inning. He averages almost 6 walks per 9 innings. Vince Coleman, who ran for Kevin Mitchell, stayed in the game, and so Coleman is in left field. That means for the National League, the only position player available is Barry Larkin. For the American League, the only position player is Kelly Gruber. The only pitchers available to Tommy Lasorda are John Franco and Oral Hershiser. The pitchers available for La Russa are Finley and Henneman. They got him and hung him out to dry. Ruben Sierra picked off by Mitch Williams to Glenn Davis.
Ruben Sierra got caught leaning the other way. Does not really a base stealer for the Rangers. 5 out of 6 during the year. Tony La Russa maybe putting a play on, trying to pick up another run here, just up by 2. He'd like to get another one going to the 9th. Williams has an explosive fastball. Tremendous movement at the hitting zone. You know, you talk about his base on balls. Another thing about him, the more times you run him out there, the more happier he is. There's a fastball at 89 miles an hour. When he was with the Texas Rangers, he averaged about 77 appearances a year. And he says, the more they use me, the happier I am.
Well, he's working on Steve Sachs with 1 out in the 8th inning. 5-3 American League. That's popped up around the plate. Tony Pena looking for help, and Glenn Davis obliges and puts it away. So 2 down in the 8th inning. If you're not keeping score and you wonder about those players come up in the 9th inning, it'll be the DH, and that would be Bobby Bonilla, followed by the second baseman Willie Randolph and the catcher Tony Pena, with 1 other player available, and that's Barry Larkin. Here is Mickey Tettleton. Tettleton released by Oakland, signed by Baltimore, and shipped out to the Rochester club. And what a story he is. Baltimore having such a miserable year a year ago. They brought him back in May. He hit 11 home runs. Now suddenly he's a spark plug. He was talking about the fact that a little more than 3 years ago he lost a home run hitting contest at Oklahoma State. He finished behind Pete Incaviglia, Robbie Wine, Gray Green, Doug DeCenso, and a graduate assistant in the home run hitting contest. And now he's one of the big guys in baseball. 20 home runs, 51 RBIs. And of course, you could write a book about Mickey Tettleton and the Fruit Loops. 1-2. 2-2. There's the last of the Mohicans. Kelly Gruber is on deck. Oh, good fastball to ring him up. So Tettleton strikes out, and Mitch Williams, would you agree? Did he make it look easy? Does he make anything look easy? We'll be back. A beautiful nighttime shot now here at the Big A in Anaheim as our Goodyear blimp sailing serenely overhead. A reminder, this telecast presented by authority of Major League Baseball and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball. We're going to the 9th inning, 5-3, the American League. I'm sure all of us will take our own particular memories away from this ball game, but I think for you and for me and for many, just the thought that a former president of the United States was sitting right where you're sitting.
I have the seat too, is exactly right. It is a big thrill all the way around, and the president's presence here at the All-Star game just added to everything, the overall ambiance of what goes on at an All-Star game.
And then to have Bo Jackson come up and hit one to Fresno, which is where you're from.
That's right. It was on that way.
Hometown plug.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But it was a great show up to here, and come to think of it, if that line drive isn't caught by Mike Greenwell off the bat of Tim Wallach, this could really be something, and we'll see if the National League has something left in the 9th inning.
One of the things I think everybody in baseball very happy about, Vinny, is that it's a ball game that has been tight and close. We go to the 9th here, and it's a 2-run ball game. What nobody wants in baseball, and everybody associated with baseball, is a blowout. So we go to the 9th, and the National League has a chance, an excellent chance.
And it'll be Bobby Bonilla hitting left-handed now against Doug Jones. In there for a strike, 0-1.
A great changeup does Jones have. I mean, a great changeup.
You know, it's nice about Jones. So many players here are superbly gifted, and they make the All-Star team easily and early in their careers. Here's a right-hander. Last year was his 11th year in professional ball and his first full year in the majors. So he has really paid his dues. He was on 9 minor league teams.
3 years ago, the Cleveland Indians asked him to retire as a pitcher and become a coach. Now, you watch him work. You've seen Bonilla get 2 fastballs in the strike zone. The fastball that 2 changeups in the strike zone. The fastball that he throws would be out of the strike zone.
Ground ball, just what? Fair? Yes, it hit the first base umpire, Bob Engel, and it's a single. If it doesn't hit Engel, it's down the line for extra bases because Bonilla runs exceptionally well. And Bob Engel, 23 years of service as an umpire, and just couldn't get out of the way.
Bobby Bonilla turning on the changeup just inside the bag, and Mattingly could not get to it. Hit Engel right in the leg, right over the top of the bag, and watch how close Mattingly is to getting this ball. Boom! And it's Engel right off of the shin. Hit the umpire in fair territory, and the ball is alive.
Well, now you have Willie Randolph, the batter. So the 2 second basemen in the game switch leagues and switch All-Star affiliations. Steve Sachs, who was a National League All-Star when he played for the Dodgers, now with the Yankees and representing the American League. And the other side of the coin, Willie Randolph, an All-Star with the Yankees in the American League, now a star in the National League. Finishing up for Ryne Sandberg. Off speed, and the count 2 balls and no strikes. On deck, Tony Pena.
Randolph, a high fastball hitter. A very patient hitter. He has a big hole to hit through between Mattingly and Sachs. He's grounded into 6 double plays here so far this season.
He has one physical problem. That's in there. He was involved in a collision with catcher Damon Berryhill recently over the weekend in Wrigley Field, Chicago. Hurt his neck and could not play Sunday. But he was saying as sore and as hurt as he was on Sunday, he felt he'd be able to play, and here he is tonight. That's a strike. 2-2 the count to Willie Randolph. We're in the 9th. The American League 5 and the National League 3. Oral Hershiser, along with John Franco, are the only 2 pitchers who have not seen service tonight for the National League. Fastball hit down to Sachs, wouldn't you know? The feed to Fernandez, back to Mattingly, too late. So the force play 4-6. And the Dodger coach, Bill Russell, is now coaching first base for the National League.
The big high chopper, that's the reason they could not get 2 on the play. Ball not hit that sharply to Sachs. Sachs made a very good play in the sense of making sure of the lead out in this situation. Instead of being greedy and doing something fancy and taking a chance at getting a double play, get the lead out.
That's hit right back to the box. Jones goes to Fernandez, back to Mattingly, and that's it. On the double play, the American League shuts down the National and beats him 5-3. So the series now stands 37 wins for the National League, 22 for the American League, and 1 tie. The winning pitcher in Anaheim, and how sweet that is to end the story, Nolan Ryan. And the losing pitcher would be John Smoltz. And I would think for a baseball fan, this had pretty much everything you want, especially in the early innings.
Folks, it doesn't get any better than this. You had a little bit of everything. You had power, you had speed, you had running, you had defense. You had just about everything, and they got a great show here tonight.
And so the National and the American League with handshakes all around. Good show. We'll be back in Anaheim for a few more post-game remarks coming up right after this.
The 1989 All-Star Game has been brought to you by Mazda, who invites you to test drive the all-new Mazda Miata. By IBM. How are you going to do it? Yes to it. And by Reebok.
The American League has taken 2 straight All-Star games for the first time in more than 30 years. They won back-to-back in 57 and 58, and they do it last year and again this year. A reminder, stay tuned following local news for The Tonight Show, starring Johnny Carson, followed by Late Night with David Letterman, and later with Bob Costas, except on the West Coast and most Mountain Time Zone stations, where these programs will be seen at their regular time. The most valuable player of the 1989 All-Star Game in Anaheim comes as no surprise, Vincent Edward Bo Jackson. And now for Tom Seaver, this is Vincent Edward Scully saying so long from the Big A in Anaheim. And remember, Carson, Letterman, and Costas coming up on NBC. We'll see you next week from Yankee Stadium when the Yankees and the Kansas City Royals will be on the Game of the Week. Way to go, Bo. See you next time.